there was an issue, or remember we brought it up, hey, you're pretty left-handed, pretty left-handed heavy. Is that a problem? No, we don't think it's a problem. Well, it looked like a problem against two very mediocre lefties. And by the way, quick congratulations to Bailey Falter for joining the Dylan G Career All-Stars, a guy with an ERA career right around 5, came in with an ERA around 7, now 5-0 with a mid-2.5 against the Nationals in his career, a Jag who shoves against Washington. Therefore, Dylan G All-Star. That's Bailey Falter.
The Nationals.
Ownership stake.
But last night was a phenomenal night offensively for Washington. They scored 1 run.
A little sandwich piece in the ninth there.
This game, not so much. Shut out by the vaunted Pirates.
And the Nationals do not score.
What was it that Charlie said about strikeouts? They're his ick, right? Aren't K's his ick? Luis Garcia just looking at a pitch. Bottom of the strike zone to end the game. And we'll try again tomorrow, I suppose.
Weather permitting, the snow in Colorado. They could use a snow out.
I'm not going to scream about this baseball game like the dude did in New York from their midday show. I think his name's Sal Licata.
Of course it is.
He was going nuts on Juan Soto because Soto, who's got an 800 OPS, by the way.
Did Soto make an out and he's upset?
Soto, who's 31% better than the average big leaguer right now with an OPS plus over 130. Early in the season, hasn't come through every time in the big spot, I guess. So despite his start to the year, which is well above average statistically, he was doing I'm done with Juan Soto, and this guy doesn't come through take. And
got a lot of years to go, Sal. You might want to pace yourself, buddy.
Screaming at the top of his lungs on April 17th. Look, you want to get angry at the Nats bullpen on April 17th? I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
They stink, and it ain't getting a whole lot better. Although today was pretty good. We were due for one of those. That's called progression to the mean.
Yeah, Lucas Sims got outs. That's a big step forward.
What a joke. Send Juan Soto back our way, please, if you're going to do your hot takey, awful, screaming, he's not worth the money stuff on April 17th. But, Danny, while the Nats were playing and not scoring, because I don't know if you guys heard or not.
What happened? No, tell me what happened.
Soon enough, they'll score their first run today.
Okay.
And the Nationals do not score.
But while they were not scoring, we got our schedule for the first round of the NHL playoffs and for the Caps.
Here we go.
And the Canadians. Let's do that hockey
Let's do the hockey.
Spring, baby. Here's what we're looking at. One of the great weeks we have had in DC sports in a long, long time next week. Follow me, Danny. Enjoy this with me.
Here we go.
So next week, on Monday night at 7 p.m. at Capital One Arena, downtown in DC, the Capitals play the Montreal Canadiens.
Bonjour.
Here we go.
Bonjour.
Okay. Tuesday night, after the Caps are hopefully up 1-0 in that series, a new series begins, and it's the Orioles and the Nationals, a little regional rivalry, always one of the most fun series on the schedule for the Nats. Back at Nats Park, first time in a couple weeks. A lot of people coming down from Baltimore, Hun. Should be a fun little 3-game set. Tuesday night, Game 1, O's Nats regional rivalry. Wednesday, Game 2.
That's right, hon.
Thank you, Craig.
What up, Heisty?
Game 3,
dude.
Caps Canadians.
Here we go.
Game 4, on the fourth day of the week there, Thursday, so day 4 of this stretch, little thing called the NFL draft.
A wee thing called the draft.
So Monday, we got hockey.
Here we go.
Tuesday, we got O's Nats. Wednesday, we also have O's Nats, but you're going to have to take the back seat. We got Game 2 for the Caps. Thursday, we got the NFL draft. And then Friday, we've got Game 3, Washington, Montreal, plus night 2 of the NFL draft, plus the Nats. It's going to be one of them kind of nights in DC sports.
You got to be ready for it. Get your rest. You need an afternoon coffee, do that. Get your protein in, maybe get a workout, get the blood pumping. Eyeballs peeled like in Red Dragon watching matters of impact sport. These aren't just your regular season games. It's not just a regular run-of-the-mill Tuesday or a Wednesday or even a Thursday or even a Friday. These are significant ones. These are the big ones. These are kind of what's the whole point of this year, Capitals. Who's better in this regional rivalry? Nats O's. And who are the local 53 going to draft to help them get back to the NFC title game kind of stuff. These are significant.
I love this so much. Thursday, you're going to have the NFL draft on opposite Nats O's. Friday, you're going to have NFL draft round 2. Juan Soto in town at Nats Park for the first time as a Met, taking on the Nationals.
Won't that be fun?
And you're going to have Caps Canadians Game 3, first time they hit the road. Like, this is why we do this, man. This is why we are here. Next week's going to be damn good. How you feeling, by the way? We found out last night officially that it's Montreal, not Columbus, taking on the Capitals. So the Canadiens, for those of you that don't track hockey too closely, since January 1st, are the 11th best team in the NHL with 54 points. They've been playing playoff hockey for a couple of months because, like the Caps last year, they had to scratch and claw and fight tooth and nail to get into the playoffs. But they had a chance to clinch 4 games ago and lost 3 consecutive tilts before last night in Game 82 of their season when they finally got a win that was a little tighter than it should have been. It was a 1-goal game over Carolina, who sat 7 players last night as they got ready for the playoffs. But they hung on. They got an empty netter to go up to at the end of the game, and they clinched the playoffs. How you feeling about Montreal as the opponent?
Incredibly nervous.
Because you would have been nervous against anybody based on the Capitals, or because it's Montreal?
This is based on the Caps. Far less about Montreal for me.
Did you want Montreal or Columbus?
It's what I wanted less. Like I do not want to see Columbus for the indefinite future. They're terrifying me. So by default, it's Montreal.
So that's what I'm saying.
Right?
I think people are nervous largely, but I think it's based on the Capitals not finishing the season well, not playing that well, and not being healthy. Your starting goaltender is still not back. Your best player at even strength statistically is still not available, Alexi Protas. And without Thompson and without Protas, it could be a different series. So that's where the nerves seem to be coming from for me, not necessarily big bad Montreal.
Right. This to me, any first round opponent, if it was Buffalo, Chicago, teams that Washington hasn't played very well against here over the last month plus, the last 20 games, this is not the same team as the first 60. And they happen to be the most recent 20 games. So
if they were playing the Flyers, who finished in last place,
I would be
in
terrified.
The Metro, you'd also be nervous.
Yeah, watching them not play well against non-playoff teams. Some of them, you can explain them away. They're resting this guy or that guy. But, some of the regression was normal and natural. You can't shoot 13% from the field, so to speak. I mean, it's hockey from the ice for an entire season. That regression was going to happen. That's normal. That's fine. You're going to give up slightly more goals. That's normal. That's fine. Not 25th in the league, which is what they've been over the last month plus. They've just haven't been the same team. There have been periods, there have been moments where they show you the glimpses. They show you how good they can be. And then that's surrounded with, not that great of hockey. I understand the reasons for it. I mean, some people will call them excuses. Call it what you want. Sure. I get the reasons. I just also haven't seen them overcome those things. And until I do, I'm going to be pretty fearful that it's harder to get it back than people are counting on. And the injuries you mentioned.
Yeah, Washington finished losing 6 of 10. Montreal went 7-1-2 down the stretch. So that's going to lead to, I think, some 10,000-foot viewing of the matchup and some nerves. But I still would just rather be the better hockey team on paper going into the matchup. And that's pretty clearly the Capitals. Mm-hmm. You don't get to 111 points on accident.
You don't luck box your way to that. No.
You don't stub your toe into a division title in a loaded Metro or into the best team in the conference, which they were by 5 points. I mean, they ran away with the East. Think about that. It's as a track race, they were sitting down as everyone else was finishing with the entire conference. And so they played with their food a little bit down the stretch. They mixed, they matched, they sat guys. And because of that, they didn't look as good. Where my nerves do come into play, though, I'm confident that they can win and will win in round 1. But what makes me feel less confident, I go from I feel 85, 90% good about them beating Montreal. That number lowers because I'm still waiting on an update on Logan Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Boudreau's on the postgame show on Monumental the other night, a former NHL head coach suggesting pretty clearly, he says, Charlie Lindgren's going to have to be the guy in the first round because Thompson hasn't practiced, hasn't taken any shots, hasn't played in any games. They can't just throw him in there in game 1 of the playoffs without ramping him up, and it would have already had to start. So according to Boudreau, I'm not saying he knows anything, but he knows a lot about hockey, and he's a former head coach. He's saying it's going to be Charlie Lindgren's neck to start this series. Well, Lindgren's a backup for a reason, and he was not nearly as good as Thompson this season. And while he had a really good outing last time out, we're going to have to lean on that one because he's not playing tonight in the series and season finale with Pittsburgh. Clay Stevenson is, who's making his debut coming up from Hershey. But not having Thompson bothers me. Mm-hmm. That's your best goalie. That's the guy who could steal a series if he's right. And the bigger injury, honestly, is Protas. I mean, I would ask Caps fans that. We can open up the phones if you guys want. 800-636-1067. What's the bigger issue? What's the bigger problem? Not having Logan Thompson if he can't go for a good chunk of this first round, or not having Alexi Protas. I think Protas, who had even strength 5-on-5 this year, was one of the statistical best players in the league. A 30-goal scorer who is dominant and helps you on the PK and does things with no power play time, but in every other phase of the game was excellent this year. I actually think not having him is a bigger deal. And based on the rumblings I've heard, he's not going to be back at the start of this series.
No.
Might be deep into the series before we see him. So if that's the case, that bothers me. It does.
And rightfully so. Those are two really impactful folks. I mean, for me, it's Thompson by a hair, but I don't object to your Protas
Logic
angle.
being goaltending's more important?
Yeah, just it's going to come down. Someone's got to make a power play stop. Someone's got to rob somebody. You're going to have your goalie be one of your best players. Otherwise, the whole thing is moot. But your points, I mean, he's their best 5-on-5 all-around player, Alexi Protas is. I don't think that's a debate.
Well, let's pose that question again. I want to open up the listener lines on that. 800-636-1067. We found out today that the Caps play on Monday and Wednesday at home, games 1 and 2 of their playoff series. We found out late last night they're playing the Montreal Canadiens, so we're reacting to that to get started here on Grant and Danny. But I guess that should be question one. Which of those injuries has you more concerned? It seems like Thompson's probably closer to playing, and maybe he could be back for game 1, but that's certainly not something the team is letting on, if it's the case at this point. But if, hypothetically, you don't have either to start the series, which seems very plausible, who are you more worried about not being able to contribute? Thompson in the cage or Protas, who's been excellent and has been a star this season? 800-636-1067. What's your confidence in Lindgren? Because I get the sense, and I hate saying this, because man, do I love Chucky. Not only has he been phenomenal on the show many times, but just as a dude, you want to talk about an all-time dressing room guy. Last year, he carried them to the playoffs. Charlie Lindgren was fantastic in 2024. Look at the stretch run. He was nails. He has not played at that level this season, and I get the sense that a lot of Caps fans I talk to just feel better about him being able to play at a high level in the playoffs, where I'm really nervous about him in the playoffs.
I'm incredibly nervous about him. That's I don't know if it's my one seed in terms of nerves, but it's on the podium. I mean, it might be my Mount Rushmore of nerves. Listen, I'm with you. Great dude. This is one of those things that's awkward to say. I like the guy a ton. His story is awesome. I was thrilled for him that he was able to get the extension. But right now, I don't trust him. I don't trust him to make up for any of the mistakes. I don't trust him to steal a game, to steal a period, to withstand the barrage. I don't know. I'm not feeling great about him in the net right now.
Rebound control has been a struggle. Watching him down the stretch this season, there's just too many second and at times even third opportunities. The numbers are not staggeringly different, but they're pretty obviously different. Remember, Logan Thompson, right before his injury, he took a puck to the head. Concussion, has been dealing with that since, hasn't played. But at the moment of his injury, he had pretty much, I think, played his worst 2 weeks or so of the season leading up to that. Just scuffling a little bit. It was what they call the dog days of the season, not crazy.
You mean Thompson, you're talking about?
Yeah, who did I say?
No, just make sure I was clarifying.
Yeah. So Logan Thompson's injury. And when Thompson went out at that moment, his numbers had come back to the pack a little bit. He had gone from being the clear number 2 goaltender in the league this season in the Vezina chase to a little more human. 249 goals against, 910 save percentage. Lindgren's got a 273 goals against, which is respectable. An 896 save percentage. You'd like to see that over 90. So again, numbers aren't as good as Thompson's, but when you just look at them, it doesn't quite look the same. But for whatever reason, it feels like Thompson comes up with the huge save at the big moment. Only lost 6 games this season.
Part of it's a feeling thing. I mean, I'm so uneasy anytime Lindgren's got to make a decision on the puck, like to handle the puck or whatever.
Behind the cage, I agree.
Whether it's playing it behind the cage or to come out, not come out. What am I doing? The uncertainty in a moment is magnified as the playoffs. I feel like we are just standing on the edge of a knife towards meltdown. Like I think he's got one game over his last 5 or 6 where he's actually saved 90+% of the shots. I'm not feeling great about Chucky in that right now.
So I'll always be nervous about the hockey playoffs because
of the hockey playoffs.
They're crapshoot, and being better than the opponent matters less than in every other sport. And it's just that time of year. It's like saying, are you hungry? And it's dinner time. I'm always going to be hungry. I guess the question is, how hungry? How nervous am I? They should beat Montreal. This is a series they should win. I do think it evens the playing surface a little bit. If Thompson can't go and if Protas is out, now you're probably better than them, not substantially better than them. With those two guys, I think you're decidedly better. But how do you guys feel about the matchup? 800-636-1067. And how about next week? Start making your plans. Monday, hockey game. Tuesday, O's at Nats Park. Wednesday, the hockey playoffs in town. Thursday, the NFL draft. Friday, the draft and the NHL playoffs. Let's do this thing. Nothing beats spring. Undefeated. You're listening to Grant and Danny on The Fan.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan. A DC doubleheader in Pittsburgh today. Game one of the doubleheader. The Pirates beat the Nationals 1-0. The Nationals lost 3 of 4 in Pittsburgh. They lost 2 of 3 in Miami before going to Pittsburgh. They're now 2-5 on the road trip. They now head to Colorado for a 3-game series against the scuffling Rockies. Also, Davey Martinez and Jorge Lopez were suspended for their ejection after Lopez supposedly intentionally threw at Andrew McCutchen. Davey was suspended for today's game. Lopez was suspended for 3 games. He's appealing that suspension. In hockey, the second half of the doubleheader in Pittsburgh tonight, Caps and Pens. 7 p.m. puck drop. Continue the game right here on the Fan. Final game of the regular season for the Capitals. Also today, we found out the playoff schedule for the Caps. They're going to take on the Montreal Canadiens. Monday will be the first game. That'll be at Capital One Arena against the Canadiens. Game 2 on Wednesday. In the NBA, Bucks guard Damian Lillard has been cleared to return. He dealt with deep vein thrombosis. He's going to be off the blood thinning medication and should be able to return soon for the Bucks in the playoffs. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
The NHL playoff schedule dropped this afternoon. The Capitals host the Montreal Canadiens in D.C. on Monday and Wednesday night this coming week at Capital One Arena. They're then on the road for games 3 and 4 Friday and Sunday, a week from Easter. If necessary, things resume in D.C. on Wednesday night for a game 5. Welcome back, Grant and Danny on the Fan. Our poll of the day on the 1067 The Fan Twitter account has been posted. It's presented by Metropolitan Moving and Storage. Our poll of the day every day via Metropolitan Moving and Storage. Local, long distance, residential, or commercial. 3 decades of best-in-class service and experience. We're asking you, what is your level of confidence going into this playoff series against Montreal, who we found out the Caps were playing last night? On the final game of their season, they punched their playoff ticket. Minus 20 goal differential for the Canadiens this year. Not good.
Yeah, not unlike the Caps last year.
They were minus 37, I think, last year.
Mm-hmm.
They eked in as the 8th seed with a bad negative differential, but they did play really well down the stretch like Washington had. Of course, the Caps last year swept by the Rangers in the first round. Are you very confident, somewhat confident, nervous, or extremely nervous? Right now, 43% of you are mostly somewhat confident. And then an even number are saying very confident or kind of nervous. Only 8% of respondents are very nervous at this point. We'll take your calls at 800-636-1067 in just a second. I will say, specific to Montreal, a couple of things of note. Get ready to hate Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. Their top line, both of those guys had multiple goals against the Caps in the 3 games they played against Washington this year. Caulfield's a little guy, but he can skate, he can fly, he's got speed, he's phenomenal. Where's number 13? And then Suzuki, 1 digit up, number 14, was their best player this year, was an 80-point guy. Really, really good player who was a key in their win last night. Those 2 guys on the top line are an absolute pain in the butt. The other line that I'm frustrated by, because they're going to have big moments, is their third line. Patrick Laine is a former star, and this new kid, this Russian kid who's come over and lit a fuse, Ivan Demidov, who wears 93, who's played for like 6 minutes, Danny, and is one of the most talented, skilled young players in the league. Got here just in time for the playoffs. They've been so bad the last 3 years. They last made the playoffs in 21. So they picked first overall 3 seasons ago, and then 5th overall 2 straight years. So these young pieces they've been drafting.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to go, right?
They're just getting here now, and they're into the playoffs. So that's somebody, this Demidov kid, to keep an eye on.
Yeah, as soon as I hear speed, my pearls are clutched. Like I'm more afraid. I mean, that's what terrifies me in the postseason in general. Dealing with the Caps over the years is they've got, their core has gotten older and has gotten maybe a little bit slower of foot. When I hear speed, I start to cringe.
Let's go to Alex, who's in Atlanta, listening on the Odyssey app. Alex, you're on Grant and Danny. How are you?
Good, boys. How are you doing?
Good, buddy.
Yeah, so Danny, you're the speed. You said it, man. That's what scares me. Suzuki and Caulfield will be running around there. I feel right now I'm nervous because of the Thompson and the Protas thing. If they're able to play significant minutes throughout the series, I feel a lot more confident. But if they're not, I've just seen how the Caps play in front of other goalies and not in front of Thompson. I was at the game in Columbus the other day, and I mean they looked like a AAA team. They were terrible.
So
thank you, dude.
They also fielded a AAA roster, but you're right. You must have been at that 7-0 game He said he was in Columbus. Is that what he said?
Yeah, so he said he was in Columbus.
So he was the one, he saw the extra point. I mean, it was really, really bad. It was the worst game. Not only they played this season, and that's not like the anecdotal, they have not played a game and gotten beaten that badly on the scoreboard in 15 years. So you picked the wrong one to go to, I suppose. But, I mean, as they have clinched this thing, think about it, Danny. And I'm not making an excuse. They may very well have just lost their mojo somewhere along the way. But the facts are they clinched a playoff spot on March 20th. And then since then, they've picked. The Penguins aren't going to the playoffs. You don't think Pittsburgh would enjoy mucking it up and being physical and banging the Caps up going into the postseason? I am petrified about these 60 minutes. You've got to skate around in this violent sport and play hockey tonight and just pray that nobody gets hurt. So the best thing you can do is, Ovi says he's playing in this game. Get Ovi off of his feet as often as possible. Short shifts, fewer shifts. It's not like you have a long roster like the rosters expand in baseball or something. So you got to play guys for 60 minutes.
If they're dressed, then they got to play pretty much.
But you just got to go through the motions and hope nobody gets hurt, which is, I think, what they've been doing so much down the stretch.
And at the same time, you've heard Carberry talk about it. You do want to sharpen a little bit. You'd like to be playing your best hockey heading into the postseason, whether momentum is real or not. It's one of those things that's a talking point. So you're going to do that while resting guys? I don't know how you do it.
And I think two things can be true. What I'm saying is, I don't know that they've put their best foot forward. They're not fielding their A roster. They're not playing 100%. They're not being as tough on pucks and doing all the things that they have done, like by design. Also, what you're saying may also be true, which is that's going to kill them because they're not going to be able to just hit the switch and be that team again. I think both can actually be true.
I do too.
Let's go to Colin and Sterling on Grant and Danny. It's Montreal and Roundwood home games, Monday and Wednesday. What do you think?
Hey, gents. Thanks for taking the call. Love the show.
Thank you, bud.
I'm much more confident against Montreal than I would be Columbus, given the fact that Columbus, one, had our number last two games, but also, two, they play just a more gritty, harder style of hockey that Montreal does not play. Yes, they play with speed, but in terms of playoff hockey, I question whether or not they're going to be able to play the style that is required to win. That being said, you guys were talking about Thompson over Protas. I think Protas is the bigger loss because the way that he plays, not only offensively, but also defensively and playing along the boards, that neutralizes some of the speed that Montreal likes to play with, and also takes less pressure or puts less pressure on our defense, who also have not been playing well as of late, particularly Sandin. He's been just a lost puppy the last few games. If you can't play sound defense, it doesn't matter who you have in goal, you're going to get picked apart. So
you're losing size. You're losing, some of the heavy that they like to play with without Protas, and one of their best two-way players. I think that's totally true. Just think about this, Danny. The top line with Protas, Ovechkin, Strome, and Protas, and then that second line of McMichael, Dubois, and Wilson, which has been great all year. There's your top six. It's locked in. It's what they were at their peak, right? Instead, now it's Ovi, Strome, and Beauvillier. He's a smallish guy who's got speed, but that's just a completely... It's
not the same. Yeah,
it's a different feel to the line altogether. That's probably your top line, because I think you've got to roll with the fourth line of Dowd centering Duhaime and Radish. The third line's going to be Mangiapane, Eller, and Leonard. They haven't really tinkered with that. It's been their least consistent line all year, that Eller line. They've moved some things around. But short of surprising everyone and making a change where like Leonard goes up to the top line or Mangiapane plays on that top line and they move Beauvillier down to the third line, I think it's probably Beauvillier with Ovechkin and Strome as your quote-unquote number one line. And if that is the case, I think Dubois, Wilson, and McMichael are going to have to carry him and be their best line in the series.
You would think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not Beauvillier's fault specifically. I mean, he comes in every day as Anthony Beauvillier, but you're asking him to do something that's not really what he should be doing at this point.
He's super fast,
right?
And he helps you in that way, but it just wasn't the design necessarily.
Right.
Thank God they traded for him, though. Imagine if you didn't trade for him and you lost Protas, and now you're talking about maybe like Radish on the top line with Frank on the fourth line. That now all of a sudden you're thin going into the postseason. But it's actually an interesting answer. Who am I more worried about not having? Protas or Thompson? Cop-out answer, but I need to know how Chucky plays. Like, if Lindgren can elevate his game, then it's not that big of a deal. I don't really have faith in that.
Right.
But if you told me right now Lindgren's going to play 6 really good games in the series, then easily the answer
Well,
is produce.
then I would do that. Yeah, but that's what I don't believe that.
What's behind that door when you open up the Charlie Lindgren door?
Right.
I don't really know what that's going to look like based on the end of the season. Should point out, by the way, and this is awesome. So Caps fans who are listening to us right now, we are going to have Caps playoff tickets for Game 1 on Monday.
How about that?
On the show tomorrow. And we're going to be giving these away, in fact, on the station all day long, every single hour. So starting at 8 a.m., in the 8 a.m. hour of the Junkies, all the way through the 5 p.m. hour of our show, 10 consecutive hours of radio on the Fan, we're going to be giving away a pair of tickets to a listener every single hour to Monday night's game. How cool is that? And shout out to the Caps for allowing us to do that. That's great.
That is awesome. That is very, 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 very cool.
So make sure you're listening to the show tomorrow if you want those Caps tickets. Let's go to Danny in Leesburg on the Fan. What's up, Danny?
The name?
Hey there. I think Wingman's going to do it. I think Wingman will do fine with the injury to the other goalie.
Protus Thompson?
Wingman's going to do all right.
Thompson.
Yeah, with the injury to Thompson, I think he's going to do all right. Wingman's going to do fine. I've seen him. He's scrambling, man. Holy cow.
Yeah. I mean, last year he was great.
Yeah. It feels like he's always scrambly. Like, I don't know if that was the word he used, but that's what
scrambling.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like to me, where it's always like he's flying around.
By the way, I don't want my goalie to be scrambling.
And this is my point.
I think he said it in like a, man, he can scramble.
Yes.
Jaden Daniels, I want to be scrambly. I want Charlie Lindgren to be quiet and immobile.
Yeah, and that's why Logan Thompson makes me feel calm. It's not to say he's never given up a soft goal or hasn't given up a bad one. I mean, everybody does. It's the NHL, but there's a calming effect that I've got with Thompson, whereas Lindgren always feels like it's always right about to go in, or how many, like 80% of the shots he's not really sure where it is as he's looking around. I mean, it doesn't make me feel secure back there.
Ashton Genty's the best running back in America. He's going to be drafted a week from tonight in round 1 of the NFL draft. He sent out a very brief but powerful letter to teams yesterday. What did he tell them? Pretty amazing. That's next on the Fan. Hey, it's Grant. During the NBA play-in tournament, FanDuel's giving all new customers a shot at $250 in bonus bets. Join FanDuel today so that you can get started with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, doesn't really matter what you want to bet. FanDuel's got so many ways to bet your favorite players' props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can do what I do and combine live props for a same-game parlay live in-game for a chance to win big. Visit FanDuel.com/GP, promo code GP, FanDuel.com/GP to get in on all the NBA in-game action. FanDuel.com/GP. Got to be 21, present in Virginia, first online real money wager only, $5 deposit required. Bonus issued, non-withdrawable bonus bet expires in a week. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Back on offense. Ashton Genty breaks free. As a player tracking him down, it's TJ Smith. Can he get to him? Genty, touchdown, get out of town.
The work of Ashton Genty of Boise State, who finished the runner-up in the 2024 Heisman vote, played in 14 games for Boise State last season, ran the ball a nation-leading 374 times for a national number one rank, 2,600 yards, 2,601 yards, 7 per carry, and he ran for 29 touchdowns last season. Guy couldn't be tackled.
Barry Sanders-like in terms of the production.
One of the best college football seasons we've seen from a running back in a long time. And because of that, the expectation is not only is he going to go where most running backs don't in the first round, but he's going to go early in the first round. A lot of people think he's going to go in the middle of the top 10 somewhere. But Danny, yesterday, Ashton Genty sent a memo. I guess I shouldn't call it a letter. Letters are longer. Letters have an address and go in an envelope, and there's a little bit of length and weightiness to them.
It feels like that, but I feel like you could have a one-line letter.
I guess you
Couldn't
could.
you?
I mean, if you send a note to somebody, but see, now I'm calling it a note.
There you go. There's definitely a line between letter and note. I don't know what it is.
What if 500 years ago, you need to get word to me that you need reinforcements, and you give the bird the piece of paper.
I'm sending you a dispatch.
And it says, get here as soon as you can.
Right.
Or like, Grant, need your 200 men.
I'm at Fort Edward. You're at Fort William Henry. I need you.
They should make a movie about this, the 200. And it's just me and the 200 guys that help fight.
I'd watch that.
But that's not a letter. Again, I think a letter.
Yeah, that's it. That's a dispatch. That's like moving orders.
I've never heard of a dispatch.
Yeah, but I'm basically saying like this is an urgent communique between soldiers. But like, let's say differently. You and me live far away, and it's like I'm planning a visit at some point. Now I'm going to send you a letter, right?
But if it's very short, if you just say, "Hey, I'm coming next Wednesday," that's a note.
That's a note. We're back to square one. Because if it involved a mail carrier, you're talking about a post person.
How it got there might make it a letter. Does it go in an envelope?
But you could send a note via a postman.
Paper in an envelope in the mail feels like a letter.
Even if it's short?
Post it or something small, not in an envelope, handed to someone, definitely a note. But he sent this thing.
Yes.
I'm going to call it a note to 32 teams. A memo of sorts.
Memo.
This is what it read. You open it up. Oh, Ashton Genty sent me something. I've taken the long way. I'm done with that way.
Okay.
If you pick me, it's simple. I'm coming to your franchise to do what Saquon and the Eagles just did. I'm coming to win big soon. It's tackle football. You know what I'm saying? I draft the guy they can't tackle. Thank you for your time, Ashton Genty. What a line, by the way.
How about that?
It's tackle football.
Where's he going with that?
You know what I'm saying? I draft the guy they can't tackle. Whoever gets the writing credit on that did some work. Do you think this is his idea and he goes to his agent and he goes, I got an idea? And his agent's like, I don't know, Ashton. Comes off as a little presumptuous, and then he talks him into it and they send it? Or do you think the agent's like, we need to do something here? We need to mix up the messaging here. Let's put ourselves out there a little bit. Write something about how teams shouldn't pass up on you. Whose idea was it, I wonder?
This smells PR person to me.
I think so too.
But and I'm okay with that, by the way, for the record. Like that's why you hire these people to do these sorts of things.
Oh, I'll go on record. I love this. I already was in on Ashton Genty, probably more than most.
The average bear. Yeah.
I would draft that guy with the quickness. This is awesome. I love this. It's tackle football. I draft the guy they can't tackle. Where do I sign?
Yeah, this is on that level with Geno Smith. They wrote me off and I never wrote back kind of a deal. You went, okay, that's really good. Good turn of a phrase there, Mr. Smith. So this is not my proclivity. I don't hate it by any stretch. I'm trying to be clear about that. I actually think it's kind of cool. It's just not something I would ever do because if anything doesn't go well, that's getting thrown in my face. You know what I mean? It's like the pre-dunk on everyone, and now there's a target on your back.
You've definitely opened yourselves up.
Yeah.
Whoever was behind this with him
Mm-hmm.
to being made fun of for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I feel about that, as I've gotten older, they're going to make fun of you anyway. In a hypothetical where he's a bust, where he doesn't turn into a great player, if you don't have this note out there, you're still the butt of jokes.
Mm-hmm.
People are still going to poke the bear and make their zings, right? Who cares if you give him the added ammunition? It's not like nobody would have noticed if he went 7th and didn't send this thing. To quote a great MTV Films movie from the 90s, which you sleep on, Angus. Screw him, Angus. Just put yourself out there.
Great.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Angus is great.
Melissa Lefevre, Prom,
Hold on.
Angus,
Let me see who we're talking
Troy
about.
Wedman. Is it Wedman? Big ears.
I don't know, man.
He wears plum. You don't know anything about Angus?
Melissa Lefevre is no, I'm looking at someone else. She's pediatric cardiology. That's not who we're talking about.
No, that's the character's name, so
Oh.
not the actress's name. The only actor you would know from it is James Vanderbeek was in it as Rick Moranis. Not Rick Moranis. That's a guy.
That's a person. He's
Rick-
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, his name's Rick something in that movie.
I mean, I have no file on this one.
Rick Sanford, I think's his name.
I believe you.
The my ball flew in the air and landed in Rick Sanford's hands. Nothing? You got
No,
nothing?
zero.
Got
You
it.
can quote it all afternoon.
Angus, brother.
It just buzzing my tower
Little
right over my
homework
head.
for my guy.
Yeah.
It's a good flick.
Man, is it available anywhere?
I bet it is.
Do you think anybody could watch it right now?
Bet you they could.
Hmm.
Bet it's streaming everywhere. You might have to do a little digging.
You have to
But-
want it.
I just want to say, Team Genty, love this so much. And I'd like to remind everybody that this is tackle football we're talking about, right?
So where's he going?
Why wouldn't you draft the guy that nobody can tackle?
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good line. Because again, I remember reading it. I say, oh, Ashton Genty posted something. Good for him. It's calling a shot. This is tackle football. I'm like, oh no, this is some sort of weird bravado about tackling and physicality in Oklahoma drill. And then he spun it on me, pulled the rug. Well played, Ashton.
Who's going to be representing the Commanders at the NFL draft, and why is Danny annoyed by it? That's next on G&D here on The Fan.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan, and this update is brought to you by Meadows Farms. Fresh plants arriving daily. Plant a little happiness. In baseball, the Nationals fell to the Pirates today 1-0. They lost 3 of 4 in Pittsburgh, coming off a series where they lost 2 of 3 in Miami. So they're 2-5 on the road trip. Last couple games of the road trip in Colorado beginning tomorrow. Davey Martinez and Jorge Lopez were suspended for Lopez's ejection for supposedly intentionally throwing at Andrew McCutchen. Lopez suspended for 3 games. He's appealing. Davey was suspended, missed today's game. In hockey, the Capitals taking on the Penguins tonight in Pittsburgh, 7 o'clock puck drop right here on the Fan. Final game of the regular season for the Capitals. Playoff schedule was released for the Capitals taking on the Canadiens. Games 1 and 2, Monday and Wednesday at Capital One Arena. In the NBA play-in tournament last night, the Heat beat the Bulls 109-90. The Mavericks beat the Kings 120-106. The 8 seed games come up tomorrow, Heat and Hawks, and then Mavericks and Grizzlies. The Bucks guard Damian Lillard was cleared to return. He was dealing with deep vein thrombosis. He is off blood-thinning medication. And in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers said his future is still uncertain on the Pat McAfee show today. And 1 week until day 1 of the NFL draft. Also, Gary Clark going to be in Green Bay for the draft. He's going to announce the Commanders' day 2 pick. Attention VIPs, brighten your world with Meadows Farms during our blooming sale. 20% off all in-stock azaleas and 20% discounts for our 4.5-inch premium annuals. Hurry in. Sale ends Wednesday. Discover more at meadowsfarms.com or any of our 16 locations. Meadows Farms, plant a little happiness. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
In our final segment tonight, taking you up to 6:30, we are going to be giving away a 4-pack of tickets to the DC Defenders game on Sunday, April 20th at Audi Field this weekend. Boys are trying to get to 4-0, the only undefeated team in the UFL, so make sure you're listening. In 2 hours, we're live on Grant and Danny, brought to you by the law firm Kondori and Murad. They will help you to draft a last will and testament, set up a trust, or put together a medical power of attorney. Schedule consultation with their attorneys today at kmlawyers.com. Tell them we sent you for a discount. That's kmlawyers.com. Toby just told you in the update that Gary Clark is going to be representing the Commanders at the NFL draft. Each team sends a dignitary, former great, to announce the draft pick for its organization in the second round. And for Washington, Clark, the 4-time Pro Bowler and a multi-time Super Bowl champion, draws the honor. Gary Clark was a baller. 1,200 yards in 86, 1,000 yards in 87, another 1,200 yards in 89. Ended up in 90 going for 1,100, 91 on one of the great teams ever, 70 catches for 1,300 yards. I mean, he had some monster totals.
He was incredible. He was the quintessential deep threat. And even when he had the giveaways, the tells, where his mouthpiece wouldn't be in, when he wasn't running pass routes, still didn't matter. The offense was that good.
He had 2 seasons where he averaged 19 yards per catch.
Oh, yeah.
Which is unheard of.
That old school Joe Gibbs offense. Smash you in the mouth for play after play after play after play. Finally get sick of it. Then he'd know the perfect time to call it the play action. Still, by the way, 46th all-time in yards, which you go, okay, that's pretty good. When he retired was, I think, in the 20s. Everybody that superseded him has played here over the last, couple of decades as passing has become way more ubiquitous.
Well, what's crazy to me is in a year where he caught 56 passes, he was a first-team All-Pro wide receiver. Think about that. Because he averaged almost 20 a catch and went for 1,000. But it was Deshaun Jackson-like from this era, essentially, where you just get behind everybody. But, as I said going to break, Danny is a little bit salty about this. So I want to allow you to explain yourself, Danny, why it was that you came in here today frothing at the mouth a bit. You were foaming up over Gary Clark getting the nod to address the audience and make the pick for the Commanders in the second round, because I like this.
I already know what's going to happen. There's going to be a twisting of my words, a misinterpretation, and frankly, an irresponsible accusation. I love Gary Clark. You will not get me to say anything bad about Gary Clark. In fact, Gary Clark owned a restaurant at one point. I did stand-up at. I could barely get on stage because I was so overwhelmed at having him shake my hand and say that he was glad to have me there. I love Gary Clark. I don't love the bit in general. Here's the deal that they do, okay? First round, it's Goodell. There's one moment of delay where he lets everybody boo, and then they get on with the actual show. And here are the picks that you waited so long for.
He walks out. He tells you with the third pick in the NFL draft, the Miami Dolphins select Toby Altizer, offensive tackle.
A
Tennessee.
bad pick if I'm grading that one, but respectfully to Toby. But and then they give it's a TV program, so they give everybody the analysis and they do the bit, blah, blah, blah. Second round, I don't know why they started doing this, but they do it. It's now everybody has to be, in order to try to entice viewers or get people more excited, who knows, whether it's pander to the local audience, it's there. They bring out a legend. And the legend doesn't just go with the 41st pick in the NFL draft, the team I played for selects, blah, blah, blah. It's always, what's up, Raider Nation? Where my Raider fan? Shh, pick. What's the pick? What's the pick? What's the pick? Now. I've waited months. No more delaying. Now. The pick now. Stop this. I have consumed everything you've asked me to consume. I've read all the things. How many mock drafts have I lathered myself in? I'm comparing mock drafts between mock drafts. It's 2.0 mock. It's different than it's 2.3 mock because they had one trade in there I didn't account for. I can't wait anymore. I don't need a WWE promo for your 4 seconds in the sun. You were great, Clay Matthews Jr. You were awesome, guy that played for the Raiders in the 80s. Yes, you were awesome. Have a sit down with the local Raiders TV, talk about the pick, get your moment in the sun, endorse your car dealership, talk about your local restaurant, and you're giving $2 off Appies. Stop wasting the time. I need the pick now. It's not a delay. So to close, if they would just come up there and say the pick with the 41st pick, I keep saying 40, with the 51st pick in the NFL draft, this team selects boom. If they did that, I'd be fine with it, but they don't.
They initially were doing it that way, by the way. Like the legend, I think of Darryl Green or some of these other guys over the years. They walk up. Now, there's always going to be a big ovation and a pop for a lot of these guys because they're superstars and they'll soak it up a little bit. So it was a 15, 20, 30-second delay, whatever. But it was not a trolling of the audience because they played for the Bears and the things at Lambeau. What happened was, I think, Pat McAfee, who is
a ruiner of things. No, that's not where you're going.
That wasn't where I was going. But who is like a entertainer and, has done stand-up comedy and is in the WWE and is a promo cutter and is all about the, when the mic is on and the camera's on him, he's not going to be subtle. Like he wants the attention. So he went up there and he cut this gigantic promo, which turned into a really funny thing. And everyone really liked it. And I think it was in Nashville that year. Find this for me, Darius, if you would. McAfee, when he was introducing the Colts pick in Nashville.
How long are we on for? Do we have enough time to play the whole thing?
But he trolled them and went hard and basically talked about how great he was and how great the Colts are and how bad the Titans are. And the fans let him have it. And you know how this goes.
Sure.
A couple of unfunny people at the league office went, oh my God, that was gold. That was the best thing that's ever happened. And now they're hunting that and they're trying to recreate it. So I guarantee you they're telling the legends, hey, you know what you should mention? That time you caught that touchdown in the Super Bowl against this team. They're just chasing that high of that sugar high of the first time McAfee did it. They've had now the new one is Kyle Brandt from NFL Network, who does all the skits and bits on Good Morning Football.
Yeah.
They've had him come out and cut promos against the city, and it's the troll job. That's what they're trying to do. This was McAfee when I guess it ruined it for Danny. I don't really care that much either way, but certainly makes it more annoying when you're watching it that it drags on. But this was 2019 when the second round changed forever.
Nashville, I'm not going to say a single word about the Tennessee Titans record against the Indianapolis Colts because I was a punter and there's no reason for me to talk about them. With that being said, we did not punt much against the Tennessee Titans, so you probably have no clue who I am to begin. 2 years ago, when I retired from the Colts, I retired alongside two greats, Robert Mathis and Joe Wright. A couple months later, I watched the draft. Robert Mathis announced the pick, Joe Wright announced the pick, and then an orangutan announced the fourth-round draft pick. I was replaced by a zoo animal. I was not upset about it because the orangutan was terrible at his job. With that being said, the Indianapolis Colts are the hottest team, not only in the AFC South, but the entire NFL. a young nucleus surrounding the Stanford nerd Andrew Luck. 2 All-Pros were drafted last year, 10 this year, and with the 89th pick of the 2019 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts, Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard select future Hall of Famer, linebacker from Stanford, Bobby Okereke. Okereke.
Pat McAfee, everybody.
He botched Bobby Okereke's name, but we'll let that slide. He didn't know what we know 5 years later, which is he's a pretty decent football player.
He's good, a good player.
Probably not headed to the Hall of Fame.
No.
But so that was entertaining to me. I know you don't like Pat McAfee and you wish he wears sleeves, but that was fun. If you could convince me that the draft is taking longer, here's what you're missing out on is just the pick has already been made. It says, the countdown clock or pick is in. It's just filling time with somebody on stage instead of watching your 93rd time of seeing Mel Kiper say who his best available is. I don't mind that much. I don't think it's adding. Now, you may have to wait because he could have walked out there and just said Okereke. Is that your whole argument?
Yes.
That if he just comes out and says, so what if he did this? The pick's Bobby Okereke, and then he does a big song and dance. Is that okay with you?
Way better.
Okay.
But they don't. They can't do that because they know they're useless as soon as they say the pick. Because what everyone's waiting for is the pick. Now, he's better at that than like the average, I don't know, like if they do it in Minnesota, here comes like a Detroit Lion from the 90s that played on a bunch of
Herman
losing
Moore.
teams. Yeah, he control them. Now, Herman Moore's a nice, quiet, polite man who might just say the name of the pick. But whatever. The point is, I get some me time and I get all the showcase stuff, and I'm gonna cut a promo or whatever. McAfee's good at it. As much as I dislike him and don't enjoy anything that he does, I could acknowledge that there's talent there. The guy that again, run-of-the-mill linebacker Larry or fullback Fred doing it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years after he retires is uninteresting. I don't care about the Seahawks-Rams rivalry from long ago when they do it there. They want to play this up for basically the people in the room to react. The rest of us, I need that pick.
Yeah.
The pick is the thing. You're there to announce the pick, and you do that, now we're in business. Now we can start doing anything else.
I certainly understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to file this into No Fun Danny drawers.
You could.
I'm not going to do it.
It could go under that big umbrella.
Because I think you're actually largely correct. Like, I'm here for the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I want the information, and you're a distraction to that. And I totally get that. When I watch Fox NFL Sunday and Terry Bradshaw's doing an awful bit, I want that to end so that I can just get back to the television show, please. And I think this is kind of feeding out of that same menu, so to speak. But I can't be moved to emotion, really. Because, again, it's not like a 1-hour draft is turning into 1 hour and 6 minutes. I think it's just what we're seeing in that moment is different. And to your point, I've waited months. The pick's about to be made. The anticipation is there. Most of the time, it's already been tipped, by the way. I mean, the idea that you don't know who someone's picking until it's said at the podium, I think is disingenuous. Because at a 99% clip, we already know. Social media, there's a big fight over should the reporters do this or not. The last time the Commanders made a pick at the podium that I didn't know who it was before the name came out of someone's mouth was probably 15 years ago. I mean, it just, it doesn't happen anymore. It's not a thing. So maybe it would be different if I really was like, who is it? Let me know. Or if I was getting in an elevator and the doors were closing and he had to get the word out before they closed. So that's just not reality.
Well, it is for those of us that aren't sitting there glued to the phone and actually watching the program.
I think most people now watch the draft with second screens.
A lot of folks do.
I think that's how the majority of people do it.
When the clock expires for pick time and the second clock hasn't started yet and you're cutting promos, you're now wasting my time. And so don't do that is my kind of counter. Don't waste the time. Say one thing, maybe at most. Hi. And now say the pick. Like I'll give you a half of 1 second. Other than that, you're now wasting time. So all I want is the information. I want fit. I want analysis. I want info. That's why I tune in. So much stuff has been ruined and watered down. And they, now with the other drafts, it's like what inspired the clothing that you're wearing or what's sewn into the patch of your blazer, all the other kind of crap I don't care about. There's already too much of that. They've already ruined a lot of things in the draft for me.
I'm way more annoyed by that.
It's still special, and they're taking away slowly and surely the things that make it special.
See, to me, you're sleeping on what's worse is the later rounds where they're just like going to Germany because they're playing a game there this year, and some guy's standing there like, I'm standing in front of the bobblehead of the first Bundesliga captain. And did you know on October 13th, the Bengals are playing here? And speaking of which, their pick at 96, like that. Get off my TV screen. Right? All of the selling and I don't need any of that. I just want the football. But a legend who's put in the time and been one of the greats, Gary Clark, man.
I love Gary Clark.
Have your 2 minutes. Rick Snyder style. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, Gary. You're gonna get those 2 minutes.
You're gonna steal it from Rick Snyder?
No. I'm just saying. I'm giving Gary Clark the 2 minutes.
Oh, I see.
He's earned it. When he taps that bell after 2 minutes, Rick Snyder style, and gives me the pick. You get your 120 seconds. You know why you do, Gary Clark? Because I got, not personally, because it was a long time ago, but there's fond memories. I've seen the highlights of those 10,856 yards.
With 31 teams, 31 cities. And again, I love Gary Clark. I'd like to see Gary Clark locally.
They don't care, but they get their guy when he comes up.
Yeah, so then you got to sit through 31 guys to get to your guy? That's not good math.
Not as fun.
I don't want that. My point is, I'd like to hear from Gary Clark a lot. Local television people. Us. Let's have Gary Clark in studio to talk to Gary Clark.
But it's that, or they're showing the crowd. It's that, or they're talking
in the
to
second round,
Ashton Genty about what's inside of his blazer jacket.
I could
what
get
does this message mean on your lapel?
I could understand if it's the 6th and 7th round and it's nobody's heard of any of these dudes, and it's like the 15th guy at SMU, and they're going to Melton. It's like, I'm not really sure who this guy is. I don't know if he has an address. I don't know where he's from, how tall he is, what color his eyes are. Like, okay, fine. The second round. We got to ham it up to make it interesting.
Guy, I will
analysis, information.
I will gladly move this back to the third round if that's what you want to do.
Well, I'd like it never. I'd like it late on Saturday afternoons.
Your contention, one of them, is that it's the second round. I think that's fair. The second round is still big boy business. This is still the top 64. This is still early. We're finding starters. We're drafting QBs that matter. Like, yeah, I get that. Round 4, we could do the Gary Clark business on day 3.
If we have to have it, if you told me we have to have it, I argue we don't. But let's say I'll stipulate that
remember,
we're going to have it.
You can't do it in like round 7 because you got to do your Bundesliga. You got to do your Germany trip.
Your Tom Rinaldi like slow music story.
Sure, you got to do some of those. It's all there.
If we're going to do the stupid thing, and again I think it's stupid. Let's make it a much later round. Let's not have starters and impact players being drafted. This is analysis time. This is good information time. Let's hold on to that.
He's Danny. I'm Grant. You're listening to The Fan. By the way, it just dawned on me. We were talking about how the Nats have scored 1 run against the Pirates in 2 games. Because for whatever reason, hitting and scoring is just not something that they were good at in this series.
And the Nationals do not score.
Paul Skeens did pitch in the series, in fairness, but not in either of those 2 games. Remember how that happened?
Yeah.
Paul Skeens carved them up like a damn pumpkin on Halloween.
I got no beef with Paul Skeens carving you up. He carves up everybody.
You want to get shut out on Skeens Day? You want to score 1 run on a Skeens Day? I can live with that. But when it's Andrew Heaney, the ghost of Andrew Heaney?
It's the law firm of Falter and Heaney. That,
2 days?
Yeah.
1 run? No.
And the Nationals do not score.
Grant and Danny on The Fan. RFK Stadium is starting to feel inevitable. Is the dream in Maryland for 2.0 Northwest Stadium done? And is Virginia officially cooked? Virginia Stadium.
That's so funny.
Grant and Danny on The Fan.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan. This update is brought to you by Paul Henry's Window Installation, your clear home improvement choice. In baseball, O'Neal Cruz's leadoff home run for the Pirates was enough for the win today. They win 1-0 over the Nationals, who lost 3 of 4 in Pittsburgh. Before going to Pittsburgh, they lost 2 of 3 in Miami. They're now 2-5 on the road trip. They'll continue the road trip. 3-game series in Colorado starting tomorrow night. In hockey, the Capitals taking on the Penguins. Final game of the regular season tonight in Pittsburgh. 7 p.m. puck drop. Can hear the game right here on the Fan. Earlier today, we found out the playoff schedule. Capitals game 1 and 2 at Capital One Arena will be Monday and Wednesday against the Canadiens. This April only, get 10% off each window with a 5-window minimum and 10% off each door at Paul Henry's Window Installation. Schedule your no-pressure free estimate today at paulhenryswindows.com, your clear home improvement choice. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
I would say that I think odds are that the team is coming to DC. Whether this is exactly what the numbers will be, my guess is the numbers will probably be a little different than what's in this initial document that I have. But it'll be close, and it'll be, the proportions will probably be in place. And I think that's an important thing to look at, because you guys know better than I. Look around the country. Where do you see a team owner putting up that much money for a stadium compared to what the jurisdictions put in?
Mark Seagraves of NBC4, who broke the story yesterday, and this is a big one in DC sports, that the Commanders and the city are closing in on a deal to bring the team back into the district at the RFK site. Welcome back, G&D on the Fan. I still think the most stunning part of yesterday as a development, and getting to read all of the stories that have come out about this since, and do a lot of just more research, I'd say, on where we're at on this thing since it broke while we were on air and reacted live yesterday. The 2.5 billion number is astounding. And when I asked a few people, not with other teams or anything, but just that are involved in sports business, that was their thought too. What? Josh Harris and these owners are going to pay 2.5 bill? I mean, that's going pretty far toward just paying for the stadium at that point.
Now, whether it ends up being that exact number or is on the way to it, just
I would
shy.
bet against it, man. Right. I don't think that'll be the case. I think it's going to be. I'll bet you it's under 2 or close to 2. But what do I know?
But yeah, but I think the point that I'm making, and I don't want to speak for you, but I guess it may be, stands. That's a lot. That's a huge, major chunk of what the cost is going to be for this thing,
which speaks to a commitment to being in the city that I would say you could use words like desperate or hell-bent.
Yeah, a unwavering arrow towards a single goal, which is the team is going to play there. To facilitate this thing, they're probably presented with, hey, here's what's got to happen. Let's say, at the sake of argument, to clear out the old, to redevelop, to do this, that, and the other, the things that we would like to do for this thing to be viable, sustainable, and not need to be dramatically, altered or changed in the next decade to keep up with the Joneses. You want to build something nice, it's going to cost, I'm making up a number, $3.3 billion to do that. That's our best estimate. We can do that, and we do a nice job. Here's what we can come up with, talking about from the city's perspective. So the balance is up to you guys. How do you want to do it? And if you'd like to, we can talk. If you don't, then, go crawling back to Maryland or give the governor of Virginia a call. Let's see how that goes for you. To me, this is they know that this is where it has to be for their desires, for the fan base, for the organization, for all the reasons that they've been open about talking about, by the way, over the years, since they've taken control of this thing. They're going to make it happen. They're going to facilitate it. They understand that level of investment is what's necessary for the long-term health.
It's very rare that Josh Harris talks about the stadium because, press conferences are pretty sparse. Not to say he doesn't talk. Compared to Dan Snyder, the guy talks all the time, and he's very approachable. But it's just not common for an NFL owner to speak a ton unless you're Jerry Jones. And so we got him, quarterly this year. He talked before the season, talked during the season once, I think, after the year, whatever. But whenever he does talk about the stadium, he always makes it seem like it's still wide open. That this is a 3-horse race, to use the parlance of next month's Kentucky Derby. That Virginia, Maryland, and D.C., 3 municipalities, all have an equal chance. They're all vying for it. They all want it. We want to work with all 3 of them, and may the best deal get struck. I just don't think that's where it's at. I haven't really thought that was the case for a while. It seemed like they wanted D.C. way more, which is obvious in terms of why they would. It's understandable, clearly. But I think yesterday, can we close the book on Virginia and Maryland? Certainly Virginia, I think we could probably slam the book on. Maryland, I guess, is still the fallback because DC is hard to get done. There are hurdles. There are obstacles. There will be lawyers. There's always going to be, there will be council members, right?
Yes.
There will be votes. Like that stuff stinks and it's politics and it takes time and effort and you just never know. It's completely unpredictable. But Maryland's only path, in my opinion, is if this thing falls through, which is different than we're talking to Maryland and we're talking to DC and we like both options. And I think Virginia's just cooked after the whole Potomac Yards, National Landing.
How could you trust anything they say?
Why would you?
And I'm not imputing any one person. I'm just saying the two different times, two different sports owners thought it was a done deal in Virginia, only to have the rug pulled. You could have the best laid intentions from whoever you're speaking with, and they could be speaking from a position of confidence, thinking we're going to get this done, and then something else happens. Virginia, to me, lost their privilege to even have a conversation with people for a long time.
But Virginia's doing great. Virginia doing great.
The Commonwealth.
They just don't want a stadium. They're still doing great. I think the way I'm going to view this now moving forward is DC wants the team, and the team obviously wants DC badly. They're not hopeful. This is we got to be in DC thing. And Maryland is if S hits the fan and it doesn't work out, we still got Maryland and we'll build something awesome.
So remember,
that's how I think they're thinking about it.
I think you're on point. Remember, they own the land in Maryland. That's the only thing that has kind of kept this from kind of already, not all the eggs are in DC's basket, but like 94% of them, and they're being shipped from that spot in Maryland.
It's a lot of eggs.
It's a huge amount. I mean, that's what they know. That's what they want. They also know, and this is my view. I haven't talked to anybody, but my view is they know that it just isn't viable to just re-rack it there at FedEx 2.0. And that's the best offer they're getting from Maryland. Now, if there was at one point when Snyder owned this thing, he and Larry Hogan were going back and forth, and Hogan finally said, "You know what? I'm out. You guys are just trying to use us to get a better deal somewhere else." But there were different locations that were being offered or discussed in Maryland. Potential land swaps, some federal here could turn into local there, and blah, blah, blah. Things that are above my pay grade as to where everything was, but still that was on the table. The state of Maryland is basically like, hey, this one area where you guys already are, we'll do it big. And they're going, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. Can DC hurry up? I mean, they don't think it's viable there. That's why that's not part of the plan. That's why it's never been the plan. It's always been DC.
I agree. I disagree with that. I just think DC's better. For obvious reasons.
Well, if you told people on a binary, hey, you could pay nothing or $2.5 billion, you'd probably do the nothing. You do the easier path.
See, I disagree, though, because they're going to make that money back in their mind.
Well, of course, because that's why it's so stark. It's such a giant contrast. Right. One is good. The other is, to them, it's a disaster.
Well, you're focusing on the other's a disaster part. I don't think they feel that way. We could disagree. It doesn't matter. You're obviously very biased. You don't go to the stadium. You said you'll never go to the stadium there. I just don't see it that way as someone who goes over there. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think this is an endorsement of DC we're talking about, not an indictment on Maryland.
So I think it's both. And I think it's essential to the conversation.
Which you've mentioned.
Right. But and you've mentioned as well. My point is, you would see different behavior if Maryland was still in the running or whatever. They don't have to eliminate Maryland because they own the land. Does that make sense? I think that's the key distinction.
But they don't have to eliminate. They haven't eliminated Virginia either.
Of course, they haven't technically eliminated.
There's no coming out and saying it will not be there. There's no eliminating. Period.
Right. We're surmising based on
eliminating Virginia because there's no real reason that Virginia would be an option. Right. Maryland, because they own the land, because Maryland also, by the way, minor detail, has already said, "Hey, we're going to pay for $400 million," and because Wes Moore seems ravenous for this thing, like he is a sports mark. You can't turn on an Orioles game and not see him on, throwing out the first pitch.
He's eating fries and pickles every day. Yeah.
Catching against the Red Sox 2 nights ago. Like he is everywhere, this guy. But I just think that Maryland is not going away. It's just a fallback option. It is a safety net.
Yep.
Whereas there was a time, maybe as recently as like 6 months ago, where I would have said, I think they prefer DC, but they don't care that much. And now it's pretty obvious. No. They want DC. They need DC. They're moving,
heaven and earth,
stones up mountains to get to DC. And if it doesn't work out, this is not like a dating game where, man, I really like A, but I also like B. This is like, God, A would be the best. I'd love to get married. That would be amazing. That would be incredible. She's so beautiful. She's so wonderful. Oh, she didn't pick you. Is B still here? Where's B? It's a little bit different than just like, I'd be happy with either. It's 50-50. No. This is like DC or bust.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work out, they'll say, okay, we got the land in Maryland. Shane's in DC. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How you doing today? What's up, Grant?
Buddy.
Happy Easter weekend.
You too.
Hey, look. Here's the thing. I've been saying this from the get up. It belongs in D.C. And I've been saying that from the get up. Everybody's worried about the tailgating. Look, like I've been saying, you guys know I'm a diehard Tennessee fan. We have the Navy Yard right there in Tennessee. We got the Navy. We can do the same thing here at the Commanders. We can get the boats out there, have a little like Navy. I mean, I hate the name Commanders, but you know what? That's the only bright side to that name is that you can actually have like a little a Navy out there, if you will, on the Anacostia River. But, you know, I think it belongs in D.C. I'm glad it's not going to Virginia. I don't even go to Maryland. I'm like Danny. I 100% get that. You think I'm going to drive all the way to Prince William County or to go to a game? No, thank you. No, it belongs in D.C. It makes more sense. And let's put the money back in D.C. Let's build that area up.
Well, the Prince William County idea, Shane, that idea just never got off the ground.
No.
For me. That was an airplane that couldn't fly. The traffic, the 95 corridor there. Have you driven there? I mean, it is a debacle.
It's a cesspool.
The only thing I've ever thought could work in Virginia is out west by Loudoun County. That was all I ever gave a chance in Virginia because, I mean, you just have to, and Woodbridge has gotten pretty nice and there's great restaurants and cool little areas to walk around, but you just have to go down there once on a weekend on 95 to find out this is not going to be a thing.
Right. So closer to the viable spot, if it was Virginia, again, it's so adorable to even bring it up, like there was ever a chance. But the only viable spot, I'm with you, was not far from their headquarters.
Loudoun County?
Yeah, somewhere on that, whether it's Ashburn, Leesburg, or somewhere kind of out in that general direction, because you could do some public transport. You could build an infrastructure that's already kind of on the way. More and more people are there. There's a lot of money there for local advertising and a million things. But remember the news got made when Snyder and company did this, like initially we thought, oh, they bought the land. Well, then they actually didn't. They bought the right to maybe buy the land one day or something, which was all conflating and confusing. And then, of course, you had the Virginia Stadium debacle with Leonsis and company. Virginia's pretty much out of the running at this point, I think, by their own elimination. So, of course, you talk to them, right? There's no harm in talking to people. But in terms of where, I don't have a better analogy, where the eggs are, you and I both agree. The eggs are in D.C. I mean, just the idea that they're willing to go that far with their own financing, their own billions of dollars, whether it's 1.9, 2.2, I don't care. It's still a massive amount to build in this one spot, tells you how hell-bent they are on that spot.
So fill in this blank then. I think this could be a good exercise. A stadium for the Commanders in D.C. is. Fill in that blank with a word. Like I would say inevitable. I would say unavoidable. I would say a lock. I guess that's two words, but happening. Danny, a stadium for the Commanders in D.C. is?
I'm going to use multiple words. I'm screwing you. Priority one for Harris.
Well, okay, sure. But okay, that's sure. I mean, I think we just spent 15 minutes saying that that's pretty, common knowledge at this point. Would you say in terms of the chances of it happening, inevitable, likely?
Very likely.
Definitive?
Yeah, very likely. The inevitable thing are the objections, the citizens associations, the city council, the budget shortfalls, the optics, the local politics. Then somehow it spills into national politics for 10 seconds and then back to local. Then, a new problem arises where actually if no budget item is submitted before midnight on April 15th, they can't talk about it until April of 2027 or some kind of other weird crap that nobody else has to deal with just because of where we are here in this federal city. But to me, the biggest hurdles have been overcome. And it looks like the last big hurdle, just in terms of some public financing, looks like there's a willingness from DC to do something, which I think was the last kind of major thing that had to fall.
How hell-bent do you guys think this ownership group is on getting the stadium deal at the RFK site. Based on yesterday's reporting, it seems like they've made major progress. They're getting way closer. Do you think it's something that they'd prefer, or do you I think, and it sounds like Danny agrees to this, do you think that they have decided this is where it has to be? Inevitably, not Maryland, not Virginia. G&D on the Fan. He's Danny. I'm Grant. This is The Fan. We'll take you up to 6:30 this evening. The Nationals have already played. They are in the loss column. Got shut out by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Dropped 3 out of 4 in the Steel City. A chilly 4 games of baseball. And an unsuccessful trip so far for the Nationals. But with a lot of NFL news to hit and draft information to get to before we get out of here, we're talking right now about the RFK Stadium news yesterday. Mark Seagraves of NBC4 broke. He joined our show to discuss the fact that he was able to get his hands on some paperwork. He's got the city and the team getting close to a deal, $3 billion stadium at the RFK site, and Josh Harris paying upwards of $2.5 billion of it. I think that it's over for Virginia and Maryland probably, unless something falls through. That right now it seems like ownership is working almost exclusively with DC to make sure that this happens. And we're gauging your guys' thoughts on that at 800-636-1067.
Yeah, to me, this is they know what they've got in Maryland. In other words, they know that they have a free, a fallback plan, I think you used in the previous segment, which I think is dead right, because they've already got the land. They've already got a commitment from the state of Maryland for development around it. This new stadium where, whenever it would go, if they move it over 100 yards, 500 yards, closer to the metro, whatever they do, they've got something in place. And I don't think a better deal is coming from Maryland. And I think that's a key distinct point as well. Whereas I'm just making this up. If you could put it somewhere by National Harbor, you could put it somewhere by BetMGM, put it in Oxon Hill or a place that's maybe more convenient to Northern Virginia or some other points, then you might have a different conversation. But because they've already got that land, that's the area that Maryland wants developed. Understandably, because there's nothing going. There's nothing happening there. Like, we need this. This is an eyesore. This is zero. Let's make it something. If a better offer was coming from Maryland, I think it might be different. But because they've got that fallback plan, it's now, thank you for that. We are working on DC. And, unless a council member has their Spartacus moment or Mr. Smith goes to Washington and then it gets knocked off the table or something weird happens with Congress that I don't even know about yet, or who knows, I think that's where it's going.
And so maybe it's semantics, but I don't think Bowie or National Harbor or any of the other options that Maryland comes forward with are relevant at all. I think DC has always been the end-all, be-all. I think this thing started with a 1 seat against 16 seats. I mean, to me, it was always DC. It has been DC since the beginning for obvious reasons. Someone asked, why is it so important for them to get back to the city? Really? Have you listened to this station for one day over the last 20 years? Outside of a new owner, this is what the majority of this fan base has always wanted. It's the single greatest thing that they could do. I think you can actually debate whether they change the name or go back to DC, Danny. Like, what would be more beneficial to the cause? I think the number one thing, and it would never happen, it's not going to happen. I'm not suggesting it will or that it should, but the number one thing they could do to grow the fan base again, which has shrunk substantially, in my opinion, is to go back to Redskins. They're not doing that.
Right.
So with Redskins not on the table, changing the name again to something that isn't Redskins and also isn't Commanders probably is not higher on that scale than building a stadium in the city at the RFK site. I think it is the next biggest thing that they can do. So
agreed, yeah.
It's a no-brainer in that regard. Maryland doesn't really matter. The plan, what's going to happen there, we'll get to that. We'll worry about that when that's our best option. It ain't the best option as long as DC is an option, and we're still there. So I just think, whatever Virginia and Maryland were offering, you were just drumming up interest to make sure that you weren't going to be left holding the bag. You want as many options as possible for a bidding war.
And that's good for everybody, yeah.
But it was always going to be DC. Another person's asking, at Grant H. Paulson for me, at Funny Danny for Danny, why pay in DC if they can just basically have the milk for free in Maryland, so to speak? Well, I think that's the easiest answer ever. Why do I live in Lorton instead of King George or Fredericksburg, where I could get a lot more house? Because I work in the city and it's location.
Yeah.
Why is it that, I'm going to pay out the wazoo the next time I move to get a yard, but I'm going to stay probably in the Fairfax area or somewhere ideally inside the Beltway rather than going further out and further down? It's all about the location. You want to be in the city because that aerial shot on Monday Night Football with the Capitol right behind you on the mall.
Yeah, and it's centrally located for everybody. So the way I would think of it is this. The new model for the stadium is you got your stadium. There are 300, depends on the year, depends on the stadium. Call it 350 days or ain't nothing happening at the stadium. Is it still an area people want to be? And if the answer is no, you're not going to make your money back. If the answer is yes, then when they go to that coffee shop, to that, when people come from out of town and stay at that Hilton, or go to the Panera, or go to the barbecue joint, or whatever it is on campus, and it's got interest 365 days out of the year, then you can make your money back. Not only can you make your money back, but then you can thrive. There's more money for them, and they know it right there in that spot. Way more possible upside than it would be if it stays in the current location. I think they know that, and I think that it also makes too much sense. I mean, they've called it the spiritual home of the team. Again, you can't recreate RFK. That wouldn't pass building codes at this point. But the idea that it's there and it's something to be proud of, it's the crown jewel. It's one of it could be one of the nicest stadiums in the NFL for everybody from all three municipalities to be able to go to. I think probably, again, it's not easy to get anywhere in this area, but it would be easier than it is to go to that spot in Maryland for a lot of the fans.
At the risk of being a cynic, the whole spiritual home of the team
it's
thing,
a little bit eye-rolling.
They can kick rocks on that. I mean, that means nothing to me. Is there some truth to there will be people that are excited to go back to the site where they went with their parents and, with their grandpa?
I will be.
Yeah, for sure. But I would say a really big chunk of the fan base, I'm almost 40. I don't have a single memory at that stadium. I was 6 when they were playing there. I went there once with my dad. I can faintly remember, and I certainly don't remember walking up to the stadium in the parking lot. Let's go to Edwin in Silver Spring. What's up, Edwin? You're on Grant and Danny.
Hi, Grant. You made a point that I'm a big fan of you guys. Love you guys. Saw you both when you were in fake North Bethesda
a few months
ago. And anyway, you made a point that it's what most of the fans want. I think that's true, but I think as a fan base in general, I've been a fan of this team since 1999. I've been listening to sports radio, this station, since 2010. So I hear a lot of what fans say or fans think. We're as a fan base, we're way too obsessed with chasing the past. We're never looking to the future, to create greatness in the future. We keep wanting to, go back to what things were. RFK is just another thing in the same situation, And yeah, most of the fans, it's what most of the fans want for sure. But I don't think that's what we're doing to right, frankly. A lot of our fans, I listen to what people call in and say this, say that. A lot of people want a lot of nonsense that doesn't even make sense, really. So because it's the most popular desire, I don't think that's what's for the best.
I actually think you make a good point. Your phone's not great, but appreciate the call. I actually think he makes a good point.
There's some truth in that, I would say.
Nostalgia's playing here, and we're chasing ghosts a little bit. But I do think that in this instance, while he might be right, that's what they're doing. I also think it's the best home for the team. It's in the city, which is a big check to begin with.
Yeah.
The location, central, which you called it, huge. Even though I'm not going to be metroing there ever because I'm a drive and park and tailgate and whatever guy, a lot of people are going to be using mass transit.
You can use it now much more easily. Yeah.
It's vital. It's pertinent. All of these things make it the best idea. So the Venn diagram crossover here is actually working where maybe they're chasing this ghost that shouldn't matter. But in this particular instance, it actually is the best location as well, which supersedes that.
I think that's 100% right. So let's say there's 100 fans just in this random sampling, Family Feud style. If 75 of those 100 want it back at RFK because they want to feel like they're a kid again and the stadium's bouncing and we want Dallas and stuff like that, Edwin's point is right. Sorry, it ain't going to be like that. Again, it can't be. They have to build a modern structure. They have to build things that your stadium actually shouldn't bounce. It violates building codes now. I keep making that point. It's going to be a nice crown jewel, really, really cool thing. Whereas that municipal bowl that was meant to house a bunch of different kinds of sporting events, that's dead and gone. This will be a football stadium, cool roof thing, cool sight lines, this, that, and the other. You're going to have concerts there and everything else. But you're now talking about kind of the new age version of that. It also happens to be the essential spot. For all three municipalities, it's the easiest to get to. Everybody has to sacrifice a little bit. Whereas on one side of it, if it's in its location in Maryland, some of the fans coming from that direction had to sacrifice the least. Everybody now has to wear it a little bit. You're coming from Northern Virginia, you got to wear it. Even folks in D.C., you got to go through public transport or Uber places. Folks in Maryland have to work a little bit harder to get there. But everybody has to give a little bit. That's what compromise is, and that's why it just makes the most sense.
He's Danny. I'm Grant. You're listening to The Fan. We are taking you up to 6:30 post-Nats baseball today. So we are going deep into the evening here ahead of evening programming on 106.7 The Fan and Caps hockey as they play in Pittsburgh against the Penguins for their season finale. Next, speaking of the Capitals, the idea of retirement came up from Ovi today. Alex Ovechkin talking about retirement. What did he say? Next on Grant and Danny.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan, and this update is brought to you by Meadows Farms. Fresh plants arriving daily. Plant a little happiness. In baseball, the Nationals were blanked today by the Pirates 1-0. They lost 3 of 4 in Pittsburgh after losing 2 of 3 in Miami. Now 2 and 5 on the 3-city road trip. They now head to Colorado, where the weather doesn't look so good, but they'll begin a 3-game series tomorrow. Davey Martinez and Jorge Lopez were both suspended for the ejection where Lopez supposedly intentionally threw at Andrew McCutchen. Davey was suspended for today's game. Lopez was suspended for 3 games. In hockey, the Capitals taking on the Penguins to wrap up their regular season tonight in Pittsburgh. 7 p.m. puck drop near the game right here on the Fan. Also, we found out the playoff schedule as the Capitals will be taking on the Canadiens. Game 1 and Game 2 will be Monday and Wednesday at Capital One Arena. Be listening all throughout this week for some tickets. In the NBA, play-in tournament yesterday, the Heat beat the Bulls 109-90. The Mavericks beat the Kings 120-106. Heat and Hawks winner will get the 8 seed tomorrow, and then Mavericks Grizzlies, the winner gets the 8 seed in the West in that game. In the NFL, Aaron Rodgers said his future is still uncertain on the Pat McAfee show today. And 1 week away from day 1 of the NFL draft, on day 2, Gary Clark going to announce the Commanders pick in Green Bay. Attention VIPs, brighten your world with Meadows Farms during our blooming sale. 20% off all in-stock azaleas and 20% discounts for our 4.5-inch premium annuals. Hurry in. Sale ends Wednesday. Discover more at meadowsfarms.com or any of our 16 locations. Meadows Farms plants a little happiness. From the Crop Medcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
In an hour, we'll be giving away tickets to the DC Defenders this Sunday. A 4-pack. They play at Audi Field, 5 p.m. on Sunday, trying to get to 4-0. I'm going to take my little guy, I think, to the game. Should be fun. What are you doing to protect your family's assets? The exclusive sponsor of this show can help. That's the law firm, Condori and Murat. They will help you set up your last will and testament if needed, set up a living trust, or put together a medical power of attorney. They take care of the tough stuff that isn't fun. They make it very seamless. Schedule a consultation with their attorneys today. KMLawyers.com. Be sure to tell them we sent you. That's KMLawyers.com. Alex Ovechkin was asked today about playing Sidney Crosby. And I didn't hear the exchange. I just saw it written.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know who asked or why or what the question was about. But the question was about him getting to play Sidney Crosby one more time. It's kind of odd because Ovi is under contract for next hockey season, and Sidney Crosby just signed an extension. So there's no reason to believe this is the final time these two guys are playing, Danny. But when asked if it was important to go against Sidney Crosby one more time, final game of the season, he could have sat out. Maybe the point of the question was just, hey, do you want to play in this game because it's you and Crosby?
Yeah, one last time this year.
He said, I'm not retiring, and then went on to kind of wait for the next question. There's been some wondering in town, including you and I talking about this a few weeks ago. What would happen if he got the record? Check. And then if the Caps made a Stanley Cup run and won his second title? Check. Hopefully. In that world where they win the Cup, Danny, and he just broke the record, would he just, with 1 year left, turn down $9.5 million? He's not from here. Go back home to Russia with his family, with his mom, and you could play in the KHL, perhaps.
If you could do whatever you want.
Keep playing hockey. Yeah, you could just, whatever you want to do in Russia, it's on the table for you. I wouldn't rule it out, and I said before, a couple weeks ago, like I could see that. Now that he's broken the record, though, as we're getting closer to the end of the year, I actually no longer think he would, even if they won the Cup. I think getting to 900, putting a little distance between him and Gretzky, and heck, just the way he's playing, the quality of his goal scoring right now, the pace with which he is putting the puck in the back of the net, it does not feel like a guy that should be considering leaving a year of contract on the table. I think there's a better chance he signs an extension and plays beyond next season than that he would leave that final year on the table.
In this delightful scenario, I might add,
Let's think more about the scenario.
Where they win a Stanley Cup, one of them Stanley Cups.
How amazing would that be for the next couple of months? Watching the boys go on another run. One of the most fun springs of my lifetime.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It takes so long. It was actually a summer, too.
Seriously.
Because when was the parade? The parade was like midsummer.
June sometime?
Yeah.
It was hot, I remember. If that happens, I think anything's on the table. I think goodwill extension. I think him going, yeah, that's all for me. This is the perfect way to cap it is on the table. Like, I wouldn't know how to predict. And I'd be too delirious to care in that moment.
You
probably.
Really think he could walk?
Yeah.
If they want at the level he's at right now.
Yeah. If they win a cup, Grant. I'm not talking about the normal playoff thing that most teams get eliminated,
sure,
and they do. I'm talking about if they won the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
What better run? What better year? What better way to say, you know what? And I ain't topping that. That's all for me. Deuces.
$9.5 million.
Yeah.
Why are you leaving that? You could pretty easily just collect those monies next year.
Sure. Do some ceremonial stuff.
By the way, it's not like you are Patrick Mahomes who signed a $500 million contract or Juan Soto who's getting every penny of $760 some. Don't get me wrong. He's done well for himself.
Mm-hmm.
He signed the 13-year deal for $124 million, I think it was. And then he got the 9 years and the 45. But I mean, we're talking about a career earnings top of my head of somewhere in the 170 mil-ish. I mean, 9 as a percentage of that is a little bit different than LeBron saying, I don't need to play another year because I've made, close to $1 billion.
Yeah, he's a billionaire. 161 and change in terms of career earnings.
Not a bad guess.
Yeah, good job by you. But yeah, I mean, I would certainly play for $9.5 million in whatever state I was in. But if the thing that I have always looked at when it comes to pro athletes and when they're deciding to walk away, it's not the love of playing. The actual playing of games is that's the fun part. That's the joy. It's the, what do you have to do just to be yourself?
Well, especially him.
Yeah.
Because as he acknowledged on the McAfee show, I went back and watched the interview. I don't know if you saw it, but he basically acknowledged that he gets out of shape each offseason.
Yeah.
He was joking with them because they said something about him taking his shirt off, being in great shape. And he's like, me? You guys, basically his point was, you don't remember the story from the offseason?
Uh-huh.
Like, I get after it a little bit. He's a guy that likes to party, it seems like. Doesn't mind having a drink and hanging out with his buddies. Remember the shirtless volleyball picture heard around the world this offseason where we're like, oh, boy.
Okay.
Are we sure he's going to play?
Here we go.
Right. He's not getting the record, but he's just a machine.
He is.
He gets back into shape or doesn't need to be in the best shape or whatever it is. I don't know. I can't tell you. He's just not from this planet.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I would agree that there's a chance of that if he was not scoring at the greatest rate that he did at any point in his entire career. But the getting is still good. It's like one of these heist movies where you punt right when you're doing all your best work. You just knocked off 3 banks in the last month. You're making $1 million at each bank, and now there's not really heat on you. Nobody knows where.
No one knows who
nobody's coming for you. This is when we start putting some hay in the barn.
It's Point Break with no Johnny Utah. Yeah, I smell what you're cooking.
He's also only 2 goals up on Gretzky, which sounds dumb because Gretzky's not coming back.
No.
But my point is, there's a big difference between Austin Matthews having a shot at 896 and potentially Austin Matthews having to chase down if he comes back for one more year, 941. Or let's say he signs a 1 or 2 year extension because they're going to be really good. Like, even if they lose in the first round, everyone's going to be livid and I'll deal with the same crap where everyone tells me they need to blow it up or everyone's terrible or fire this guy or ruin that guy. They're going to be right back next year with a loaded system, ready to rock and roll as one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Exploding salary cap, some money coming off the books, young star power. They're going to be legit. So if he were to play that out, no reason to think he couldn't score close to 40 goals next year. Would have scored over 50 this year.
If not for a broken leg.
Broken leg. Well, let's just say he comes back to the pack a little bit and scores 37 next year.
Yeah.
Pace comes down. Okay. If you sign him to an extension or you're paying him $5 million, $6 million, whatever it is a year, and he's a power play prince, and he just stands in his office and he scores you 25 goals a couple times in this hypothetical where he's no longer Ovi, but he's still a goal scorer. Now we're up to almost 1,000 goals. Why not, man? You're just making money and putting the puck in the back of the net and eating chicken parm. What is there not to like?
Yeah, it appeals to me, but as you already said, if there's things pulling him away, if he's tired of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know.
This is year 20.
Yeah, like the grind is the tiring part. Like that, like I gotta train X amount harder. I've got to now, instead of having as much, if I want to play at the level, if I care. Or I could just, as you said, make it ceremonial and make my money and do a farewell tour. I don't think that's in his DNA. But if I want to play at that same level, I have to forego that chicken parm in the offseason that time, or I got to work so much harder just to be myself. And that may be exhausting. You also may relish it. It may be the most fun he has. I have no idea.
You know
here.
What I'm thinking about as you say that, we don't really know that much about him in a strange way.
Right.
I mean, we know everything there is to know about Ovi, the hockey player.
Yeah, I know there's Coca-Cola in the water bottle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there's fun anecdotes along the way. The curtain's been pulled back by his teammates. But in terms of really like his thoughts and what makes him tick and what he cares about and his relationships in Russia and, how much he wants to go back and live there, he's kind of private in that way.
Mm-hmm. He, by the way, he could love living in the D.C. area.
We don't know.
It could be like, no, of course this is where I want to be forever. Or it could be, no, I got who knows? I got a ceremonial position with the KHL when I'm done. I have no clue.
That part is also a really big piece to this, and we just don't have the intel we need in terms of, I sleep on this all the time. When it's home for me, but not for someone else, your general affinity for it is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, people will do this occasionally with athletes that aren't cheering for their teams or something, where you're like, are you kidding me? Is he wearing a Penguins hat in the suite? The guy from Pittsburgh? Yeah, he is, man. He's not a Caps fan like you are. He just plays for them. I'm making this up, but whatever the hypothetical is. Bryce Harper's wearing a Cowboys jersey? Yeah, he's a front runner who liked the Cowboys. That's his bit. I don't know if Ovi has decided, I'm sure he likes DC a lot. He's been here for 2 decades. But he might also just view it as the place he's living, that he works here. And so he lives here half the year, and he can't wait to eventually go back. I would have no interest.
The design's always to have gone back. We have no clue.
I'd have no interest in living in London. I'll bet you Helen Mirren would. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't want to go live there. If I had to go work there and film movies and stuff, and I went back and forth, and I was a cricket play-by-play silly, and I don't know why in London they're doing this, but I'm going to the cricket tournament in London all the time.
Yeah, it's the London cricket.
You know what I wouldn't be psyched for? To just move there full time. But maybe my analyst who's from London gets steamed up. I don't know what Ovi thinks about here versus Russia versus where he's settling down.
He likes it enough to have signed here, but several times over. I get that. But again, I don't know what's pulling him. I don't know all the factors. And it's hard to know. I mean, hockey's so secretive as it is. Again, a guy could lose an ear and they'd be like, upper body injury. You don't know what anything is at any time. But especially him, because I'm not criticizing. There's always been a little bit of that language barrier. They've made him, a little bit less accessible throughout than maybe some other players at various points. And again, I'm not criticizing anybody. I understand all that. So it could be all I wanted to do is get that record. And as soon as I'm done, that's it. And I got it quicker than I thought. Or it could be, I'm having so much fun playing with the boys again that regardless of what happens this year, I can't wait to come back. Or anything in between. I really don't know.
I want to pose this question to our listeners on the phones right now at 800-636-1067. Ovi saying today he's not retiring. Nobody thought he was going to. But do you think if they won the Stanley Cup, there would be a legitimate chance? He's got the record, he's got a second cup, and he can skate into the sunset, that he could call it a career? Danny says yes. I gave it a small door open possibility a month ago, and there's just something about how this year has ended and him getting the record and the way he's playing where I honestly feel like it's not a thing. I think he is absolutely playing next year. Even if they didn't lose a game, they sprinted through the playoffs, they swept every series, and in 16 games...
They only played 16. Yeah.
Instead of screaming in Backstrom's face with that memorable gif with the cup over top of him, it's Willie or Carlson's face. And we get to relive and relitigate all that. That would be amazing. I think he's coming back. But I'd go even further. And my take would be, I think there's a better chance that Alex Ovechkin re-signs and plays another couple of years than that he would not play the final year of his deal. That's how confident I am. He's just playing too damn well. Think about this, too. We're talking about this from the perspective of what he thinks. How funny is it that 20 years in, as he's 40-ish, if he were to retire, it would be a huge blow to the Capitals. 3-4 years ago, it felt like, we got to get to the end of this 5 years. Hopefully he doesn't fall off. And now, if he were to leave, there goes your 50-goal guy. There goes the reason your power play works. There goes the dude who leads you in all of the offensive stuff and makes you scary. That would be a lot to replace.
Yes, it would.
And money comes off the books, it frees up $10 million more.
But they don't just make that many 40, 50 goal scorers available to you.
They're not out there.
There aren't a ton.
Let's go to Doug in Stafford on Grant and Danny. What's up, Doug?
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up, Doug?
Doing well.
So I don't think Ovi's going to retire. I think he's very comfortable in DC. He has a lot of connections. He's connected with Echo Stage and the music scene and people within there. Really good friends. I just don't see him wanting to leave right away.
He's super plugged in. I mean, he's been around so long. The relationships you build over 20 years as a rich person, famous person, people, person people want to hang out with.
Yeah, wherever you want to go, want to do it, you can do it.
I'll bet you that dude's got ins at every restaurant, every bar, every place in the
You want a
city.
round of golf? Sure, Ovi's coming, no problem. Like, whatever you want to do.
He just has to hit someone up. He's got a table waiting for him.
Yeah.
I'll bet it's been that way for a decade.
At least. I mean, I think since he scored the goal on his back, they were like, would you like a reservation at our restaurant, please?
But it ain't home.
Right.
I guess it's possible it is now. And he just here, like Peter Bondra. I don't know if he lives here full time. Peter Bondra's at almost every single Capitals game. I see him at the arena all the time. I think Bonsai is just a DMVer now.
Yeah.
George Mirasan walked into the suite the other night when we were at the Wizards game. He just kind of rolled in and took pictures with us. George Mirasan's from Romania.
Mm-hmm.
DC was not home to him.
Yep.
He now just lives here, and he's at every Wizards game going suite to suite, taking pictures with people.
That's what part you don't know.
This is now home.
Right. Some people go, yeah, this is my adopted home, and now it's like his home. Others are going, I can't wait to get up out of here. And it's not a reflection of DC. It's my pull is stronger elsewhere. You never know that sort of thing.
The Caps open the playoffs, by the way, Monday night at home. We found out today. So last night, Montreal won, punched their ticket as the 8th seed. So we found out their Canadians are the matchup. And then today, the league finally, they took forever to do this, but they finally released the schedule. And so games 1 and 2 at home are Monday and Wednesday night, 7 p.m. puck drops at Capital One Arena. There aren't a lot of tickets available. I can tell you that up front, but we're going to have tickets on the station all day tomorrow, starting in the 8 a.m. hour through the 5 p.m. hour at the end of our show here on Grant and Danny. Every single hour on the Fan, we're going to be giving away a pair of tickets to Game 1 of Caps Canadians. Cannot wait to start doling those out tomorrow. And 4 times on our show over our 4+ hours, we'll be giving away Caps tickets. But question is on the table for you guys, 800-636-1067. If the Caps do make a cup run and win some hardware, could this be the end of the road for Ovi, who said today he's got no plans on retiring? You're listening to The Fan.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan. In baseball, the Nationals fell in the series and in the game today to the Pirates 1-0. They lost 3 of 4 in Pittsburgh. Now 2-5 on the road trip. They'll wrap up the 3-city road trip with a 3-game series in Colorado, which starts tomorrow night. In hockey, Capitals and Penguins, final game of the regular season for the Capitals. 7 p.m. puck drop tonight. The game right here on the Fan. Playoff schedule was released for the Capitals as they get set to take on the Montreal Canadiens. Monday and Wednesday will be games 1 and 2. Both games will be at Capital One Arena. In the NFL, Aaron Rodgers said his future is still uncertain on the Pat McAfee show today. Retirement could still be an option, and we're just 1 week away from the NFL draft day 1. On day 2, Gary Clark is going to be announcing the Commanders' pick in Green Bay. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
Grant and Danny taking you up to 6:30 on the Fan. Caps hockey tonight. We'll be giving away tickets every single hour tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. right here on the Fan to game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Capitals are playing the Canadiens. Actually asking you about Alex Ovechkin right now at 800-636-1067. That's 800-636-1067. Danny, you think if the Caps were to win the Cup, Ovechkin would skate into the sunset potentially? I don't see it. I just think he's scoring at too great a clip. He's having too much fun. Frankly, he's too good right now to stop playing. But he was asked today about playing Sidney Crosby one last time, whatever that question meant.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm not retiring. So this is not the last time.
So thanks, yeah.
But he hasn't won the Cup yet. And if he has the record in the Cup, I guess it's on the table.
I think we underestimate how exhausting it is, right? They're not going 16-0 in this postseason. I don't care how good they are. Even if they do it, it's another 25, 26 games of just, you know what, to the wall intensity and adrenaline and give everything you've got just, per shift. And you do that and you stand at the end with the championship trophy and the record. Yeah, I could see him walking away. I could see anybody walking away.
You know
in
what's
those
better than
circumstances.
896 goals, though?
897?
900 goals.
Yeah.
And what's better than 900 is 925.
Well, so it's 1,200. I'm just saying, he set the unbreakable record.
But there's going to be a time where you slow down.
Mm-hmm.
When you slow down, you start thinking about not playing anymore. He hasn't. He just had his best goal-scoring season of his career. Not in terms of number of goals, but in terms of goals
per game, whatever. Yeah.
Per game, per shift, per time on ice. He scored at the best clip he ever has.
But I think
there's no reason to think about it.
He broke his leg.
So what?
So it's like I'm not 22 anymore.
He recovered like it. Did it seem like he had a tough time recovering?
No, he did just fine. But I think you underestimate the toll that it takes on somebody, where it's like, I recognize my own sports mortality here, right? I've climbed the impossible mountains. That's multiple mountains.
I do recognize
I could walk away.
I see it with Max Scherzer, whose body's breaking down on him, but he keeps trying to pitch for another team and hits the injured list because some other part of his body's barking. It has not happened with Alex Ovechkin. When it does, I'll join you and say, hey, man, the toll, the grind. He's still drinking soda and eating Subway and his legs healing overnight and scoring 50 goals.
It is stupid.
It just hasn't happened yet. Gerard's in Arlington. Hey, Gerard.
Hey, guys. Love the show.
Hey,
I don't want to steal the thunder from the Caps promo department, but print up those T-shirts, OV1000. And you teed that up nicely for me by saying, what's after 897? 900, then 925. Realistically, could he do it? Of course he can. I mean, come on. No one thought anybody could reach the great one. He did it. And yes, he broke his leg and recovered weeks later, and he's loving the game. I hear what you're saying. If he adds another cup to the trophy board, he's already got the greatest scorer accolades. So you could understand him tapping away. But look at the smile on his face. He loves the game. He loves the boys. Print up those OV1000 T-shirts, guys. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Listen, I'll sign up for it. I'm rooting for all of it. You give me as much number 8 as I can get. As many years as he'd like to play here, I'm fine by that. Even if he's just, he doesn't do the things that he used to do. I mean, he still scores a bleep ton of goals, but he's not the same player. I'm fine with that. As much as I get of him and to be able to celebrate it and what he's given to me, I'm cool with it. I guess the only thing I'm saying is I'm not even predicting that he would walk away. I still think it's probably, I don't know if there's a.
But you disagree with me that there's a better chance he signs an extension.
Yeah, I think it would. I would not be shocked if, again, the scenario that we're talking about is delightful. They've won a second Stanley Cup, and yes, sign me up. He's done that. He's now set the record. I think there's a better chance he would walk away than say, yeah, give me 3 more years or whatever the number is.
So one other thing on Ovi before we move on, and that is it'll be fascinating to see how he performs in the playoffs this year. Because if you remember, when they got swept by the Rangers last year at the end of the season in 4 games, Ovi didn't do anything statistically. He had 5 shots on goal. That's it in 4 games.
Yeah.
Danny, 4 games.
Yeah.
5 shots on the goaltender. 0 points. Was basically a 0 in that series. He had 12 hits. So he flew around, he threw his body around, but he had almost the same number of giveaways as he had shots on goal. And this is a guy that throughout his career who's been immensely successful in the playoffs. For all of the knocks that people that don't know what they're talking about have long said about what he is and isn't in the playoffs. In the 2 rounds that he had early in his career in 08-09, he had 21 points in 14 games. He had a 27-point, 24-game Cup run back in 2018. Like, he has done some really, really good things in the postseason. But that was his bad A playoff series. And frankly, it was the only playoff series ever where he didn't have a point that we've ever seen him have. I think there's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder maybe going into the postseason because I can't have another one of those. Like, as Ovi goes, this team goes, and they were not as good as offensively then as they are now. He was not on as good a line then as he is now, although Bavillier instead of Protas changes the algorithm a little bit there. But I just think coming off of last year when they got swept and he was a no-show, there's a little bit more pressure on him to step up his game in these playoffs.
I'll buy that. I mean, team-wise, too. I mean, last year, they I don't know how to say this better. They weren't very good. They eked in that negative goal differential. It was a fun story. It was cute, but that's all it was. They were cannon fodder for somebody. Even if they'd gotten a win or two, if they'd somehow beaten the Rangers, they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
This group's different. So, yeah, I think there's a chip on their shoulder from everybody that carries over, but Ovi would be part of that, too.
And in the same way in 2018, they had to get over the hump of like every time they gave up a goal or lost a game, here we go again,
100%.
Same old Capitals. And then they broke through and that went away for a little while. They've now been eliminated in 5 consecutive first rounds. So
there's a little, here we go again.
Oh, there's totally.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
It's a very negative. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying it's a very negative fan base in the playoffs. And after 5 straight first round exits, you kind of understand why.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing as they're down 2-0 in game 1 and everyone's calm. And no. This is I told you so. They stink. They're not as good as we thought. Like, that's just how people react. Want to talk Aaron Rodgers, though. He was on the Pat McAfee show today. Back on McAfee, the show he goes on throughout the football season for the first time this offseason. And it was kind of billed, not by McAfee to his credit, but by everybody else when we found out that he was going to be on, as Rodgers was going to come on to talk about his future. And that he was going to say where he was going to be playing. Because there's some thought he's going to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe he ends up with the Minnesota Vikings. He could still retire. He didn't say anything about his future. He has not made a decision. He is not willing yet to say if he's going to retire or play. He just doesn't know. And it was a really long-winded interview where he frankly just didn't give many answers. Interestingly, he did say basically he needs more time because his personal life is the priority right now over football. And when you're 41 and you're saying that kind of thing, as a team, what I would say to you is I'm not interested. I would not allow him to continue to dictate terms and make me wait and preach patience. He's not good enough for that anymore. I'll put up with that for an MVP, Aaron Rodgers. 2 years ago, he didn't play. Last year, coming back from injury, he just wasn't that good.
Right.
And now you're telling me before the draft, when I got to figure out what I'm doing at quarterback, I need more time. I can't give you an answer yet, Pittsburgh. I'm moving on.
Yeah.
I don't need to deal with your act. Manny being Manny works when you're hitting 330. He ain't hitting 330 anymore.
That's the deal. I mean, this history has repeated itself. I mean, if he somehow ends up in Minnesota, then we'll know. But this was my complaint then with Favre, and he was a different cat, obviously, than Aaron Rodgers, who's got his own reasons and motivations for doing these things, but it's still the same pathology. It's the same, somebody's got to sweep me off my feet and convince me and come get me and wait for me and me. I'm holding everybody up. Organizations, I'm not generally I side with player over org, but organizations have to figure out what they're doing. That's a reasonable thing to know or want to know or try to figure out. Like Pittsburgh needs to know, are we drafting a quarterback next Thursday? Are we trading up to draft? I'm making this up. Trading up to draft Shedeur Sanders because he's our quarterback of the future? Or are we doing the Aaron Rodgers bit and we can stay put? It's reasonable for Pittsburgh to like to know those sorts of things. So as much as you'd like us to wait, I don't have time to wait for you.
He said Pittsburgh has never given him a deadline or a timeline to make a decision. And I blame them a little bit for that. Now, he is one of these guys who is just a ton to deal with.
Yep.
And if you listen to this interview and the number of things that he perceives as slights or how often what a team does bothers him or is disrespectful, I mean, you're walking a tightrope by telling him you want an answer by a certain time, because I'm sure he would view that as a personal affront. But if you're doing business with him anyway, you got to get used to that, because he's just going to be bothered by a lot of the things that you do. I think you just have to prioritize the team over the one player and say, listen, buddy, we think you're a better option than Mason Rudolph. We think you're a better option than Jackson Dart this season as a rookie. So we want you. We're going to pay you. You're going to be our starter. I'm giving you a championship-level defense and a decent core around you. You're going to be a part of a 10-win team, and ideally you're going to make the playoffs and have one last chance to go on a magical run. But I got to know by April 18th or 20th. I got to know before the first round. They didn't do that. So I kind of blame the Steelers for that too. Couple of interesting things he did talk about. The end with the Jets. I know this is strange to people. He was bothered by how they handled his exit.
Yeah.
He didn't think they gave him the proper reverence on the way out the door. This was Rodgers today on ESPN.
That when I flew across country on my own dime, that there was going to be a conversation. And the confusing thing to me, and the strange thing was, when I went out there, I meet with the coach. We start talking, he runs out of the room. I'm like, that's kind of strange. I was like, then he comes back with the GM. And I'm like, all right. So we sit down in the office. And I think we're going to have this long conversation. I've flown across the country. And 20 seconds in, he goes, literally, I'm talking to the GM about something, and he leans to the edge of the sheet and goes, so do you want to play football? And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, we're going a different direction at quarterback. And I said, and I was kind of shocked. Now, I'm not shocked because I didn't think that was a possibility. Listen, of course, they want to move on. That's totally fine. But shocked because I just flew across country. You could have told me this on the phone. If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened. So I said, huh? And he goes, we just want to know how you want it released, the messaging. And I said, verbatim, I don't give a about the message. And I said, why? And then he said, I don't want to be up in front of the room saying something and have guys looking back at you. Interesting. And I said, what does that even mean? Are you assuming that I would be in the back of the room during a team meeting undermining what you're saying?
Aaron Glenn's the new head coach of the Jets, who he's referencing there. So they didn't waste any time. He's upset that he flew on his own dime cross country for that meeting instead of them just calling him and saying we're moving on. I can understand that frustration if I get on a plane or I pay for a PJ and I go all the way out there and I sit down thinking, as he said a couple times, we're going to have this 2-hour meeting where we decide if we're going to be a fit or not, and we'll go one way or the other at the end of it. And 20 seconds in, while I'm talking to the GM, he just says, hey, we're moving on. I'd be annoyed too.
Yeah, that's not terribly considerate. That said, the rest of it, oh man. I can't believe nobody's lining up to sign the guy.
So here's my thing on this, okay? If I ran a team, I would be so far out of the Aaron Rodgers business right now, you couldn't find me. And the biggest reason why is not even that he wasn't that good last year, although that's a factor. It's not even that he's old and that he was hurt and missed an entire season 2 seasons ago. It's this interview. It's my private thing being public. He is the guy or the girl who posts the screenshots from your interactions. That is an untrustworthy, unserious person. I'm not single, thank God, in this era. Okay? I'm married. I have kids. I don't have to worry about this. But if I was single, I would date so scared. I would be petrified all the time. It's the posting of the screenshots culture. It's the look who slid into my DMs today. Look who shot their shot. So embarrassing. It's the flirty back and forth texts that is just so embarrassing and cringeworthy for everyone to see. Aaron Rodgers is posting the DMs. You have this meeting and you're outing the Jets for how they handled it, but he does this year round in season. This is what he does on McAfee. He goes on shows and he airs out the dirty laundry. I'm out of the Aaron Rodgers business. I want nothing to do with that. Now, if you could throw 40 touchdowns and 6 picks again,
I'll get back in.
Maybe I could find a way for my screen grabs being embarrassing to be okay. But I'm not dating the person I can't trust the exchange of information to be private, and I'm not having him play quarterback for me. These interviews are just the pits. Imagine the Steelers the next time he's upset with Tomlin or when he gets benched in week 7 and he goes on McAfee on a Tuesday and they're talking about where it all went wrong. He's just airing everything out. Been doing it for a couple years.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, it's a headache and was worth dealing with when he was the MVP of the league just a few years ago. And, everybody in Green Bay got tired of his act rather, or the entire camp and entourage. And the Jets tried to appease it. You got to go get Hackett. You got to go get, everyone short of Donald Driver to come back and play with him. And it became no longer worth the squeeze. So now you're just left with whatever this is, just complaining. And as you said, airing the dirty laundry. It's not for a lot of people.
Do you guys think Rodgers plays this season? Yes or no? Feels like Steelers would be the last starting spot. I guess you could say the Vikings would sign him and push McCarthy back. I don't really see it, but that's supposedly, reportedly been a conversation. Or would he just retire? To me, in this interview, he sounded like a guy ready to retire. He kept saying, I'm 41. My priorities have changed. I'm now in love and I'm dealing with some very personal things that matter a lot to me and football needs to wait. Okay, then it's all great, man. We're happy for you. Go have your personal life. Just retire and do that. 800-636-1067, G&D on the Fan. Aaron Rodgers today, nationally on ESPN with Pat McAfee, saying he hasn't yet made a decision about his future. Retirement is still on the table. So is playing. Doesn't know if he plays, where he'll play. Did say he's met with the Pittsburgh Steelers, has enjoyed his engagement with Mike Tomlin, who he really, really likes. Seems like he's high on Tomlin, who isn't. But at 41, playing at a level well below his standard last year, 2 seasons that went terribly with New York. I mean, we were just here 2 seasons ago where he's on McAfee talking about if he wants to retire or if he wants to go play somewhere. And he chose a place, and they regret it. It was an awful 2 years. Everyone got fired. GMs, coaches. Now, his injury is a big part of it, but he's not getting younger. His bones, his ligaments, they're not getting more durable, I wouldn't think. It seems like just a no-brainer to me, and the easiest decision ever, that if you are a contending team or a rebuilding team,
you just can't do it.
Why would you?
To me, like, one of my favorite movies ever, The Dark Knight. Everybody loves it, right? Can you imagine the mob in a different city going, you know, we should hire is this guy out of Gotham that's raised some chaos, and he took half of all the money and he burned it. We should hire that guy to do our dirty work. Like, there's no way. He's just now leaving with all the destruction in his wake. Like, you just saw what signing up for that experience means. I don't see the demand. And with him waiting and waiting longer and longer, the draft upcoming, I don't see it. I don't see anybody wanting to say, we need, now, maybe somebody slips on a banana peel a couple weeks from now, and now you need a starter, and, the best laid plans. So maybe it changes it, but I just think in general, I don't think anybody's clamoring.
Mahomes goes down for the season
Right.
in training camp. The Chiefs might call him. I get that. He's a guy that you would think you can plug and play and get some production out of. But, I mean, last year wasn't pretty. This was more of Rodgers today with McAfee on ESPN.
So walking out of there, 25 minutes, it was really like 40 minutes because I saw Vito and Gus in the training room. I saw Dave Zuffalato, awesome trainer there. Got to talk to him. So I was there maybe about 40 minutes at one Jets drive. Then I drove home, had some conversations with some people there, including Christopher. But the next day when I left, I was just thinking, hey, that's the closing of that chapter. There's so many beautiful things about the 2 years that I had there. Obviously, most of them off the field, but no, I wasn't upset about it. I was surprised. I felt like there wasn't an ample amount of respect in that meeting. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised based on some of the things I saw over the 2 years, but I am thankful for my time with the Jets. I'm disappointed it didn't work out better on the field, but it didn't dampen anything. I just thought, okay, well, now I have the chance to talk to other teams and see what's out there, and then also time to contemplate my own future.
So add the Jets to the list of teams that have disrespected him. The 2 that he's played for, the Packers and the Jets. He's not the problem, though. It's the roommates, I bet. It'll be the next roommates. This one will go well. JB and Waldorf, you're on Grant and Danny. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, fellas, man? I appreciate y'all for taking my call, man.
Hey, dude.
2 things, if I may, man. Man, this dude need to hang it up. He's the Cap Rooney of the NFL, man. Like, nobody wants him. Just go ahead and hang it up. And like I was telling Darius, man, like, his career is strangely going the same route as Brett Favre.
Oh, the parallels are unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah, if he ends up playing for the Vikings, I mean, this is the same dude that when he first got into the league, he couldn't wait to, get over Favre. Like, it's just crazy to me how things turn out, man. Like, he just needs to stop and realize and face reality, man, see what's going on and read the room. That's basically all I got to say, man.
If he finishes with the Vikings, it's going to be the funniest,
the greatest parallel that ever paralleled.
Final scene of a movie ever.
By the way, sick Cap Rooney pull, which you sleep on.
I couldn't place that reference.
Any given Sunday. So Willie Beeman was the third stringer behind Cap Rooney, was hanging on for dear life, taking the pain pills, the injections, just trying to get back there one more time. Cap transitioned to mentor and coach right there. Dennis Quaid's, not Dennis Quaid. Is that Dennis Quaid? Dennis Quaid's character, I think.
Not Randy Quaid.
No, Randy Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's correct.
Right.
I love that movie, and I remember Willie Beeman. I don't remember Cap Rooney, so that is a good reference. I'll steal that one. That's pretty good. Grant and Danny on the Fan, taking you up to 6:30. We do have a 4-pack of tickets to the DC Defenders to give away. We will give those away as soon as we return right here on the Fan.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan, and this update is driven by the Ted Britt Automotive Group, home of Ted Britt for life. In baseball, earlier today, the Nationals fell to the Pirates 1-0. They lost 3 of 4 in Pittsburgh after losing 2 of 3 in Miami before going to Pittsburgh. Now 2-5 on the road trip. They'll wrap up their 3-city road trip with a 3-game series in Denver against the Rockies beginning tomorrow. Davey Martinez and Jorge Lopez were both suspended. Lopez was ejected after supposedly intentionally throwing at Andrew McCutchen. They received suspensions for that. Davey was suspended for today's game. Lopez suspended for 3 games. He's appealing that suspension. In hockey, the Capitals also in Pittsburgh, taking on the Penguins tonight, 7 p.m. puck drop. You can hear the game right here on the Fan. Final game of the season for the Capitals. In the regular season playoff schedule was released earlier today. Games 1 and 2, both in D.C., Monday and Wednesday against the Montreal Canadiens at Capital One Arena. In the NFL, Aaron Rodgers said his future still uncertain on the Pat McAfee show earlier today. And we're 1 week away from the first round of the NFL draft getting underway. Gary Clark going to be in Green Bay for day 2 of the NFL draft to announce the Commanders pick. For over 65 years now, Ted Britt has set the bar for the best car buying experience in the D.C. area, hands down. Ted Britt Ford Fairfax, Ted Britt Ford Lincoln Chantilly, and Ted Britt Chevrolet Sterling, all home of Ted Britt for Life lifetime vehicle coverage. All just a click away at tedbritt.com. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
As promised, caller number 10 at 800-636-1067. Congratulations. You're going to win a 4-pack of tickets to the DC Defenders this weekend, Sunday, April 20th at Audi Field against San Antonio. For tickets and the full Defenders schedule, go to thefandc.com/contest. Got to tell you, too, a lot of the time they play late at night. They play at 7 or 8 p.m. This is a 5 o'clock kick. So it's a family-friendly atmosphere, but this is actually a really good opportunity to take the kids this season if you're going to be doing that, because this is one of their earlier start times at home. So enjoy the game on us. Tickets in the good seats, 4-pack right now. Caller number 10 on Grant and Danny. Congratulations to the winner. Capitals playoff schedule dropped today. They play at home Monday and Wednesday next week, 7 p.m. games. We've got a little announcement we can pass along, I think, officially. So if we get in trouble, my bad. We're going to be at City Tap House right near the arena on Monday and Wednesday before each of those 2 games. So we did a show from there before Ovi scored the 2 goals to tie Wayne Gretzky. Vibes were good. A lot of people rocking the red.
Awesome.
The food is amazing.
Yes, it is.
It's a great bar setup. It's quite literally in the shadows of Capital One Arena. So it is the ultimate pregame spot, and it's going to be home to our show, it sounds like, for many of the home dates throughout this Stanley Cup run, which we're jacked up about. But Monday and Wednesday for sure, we'll be broadcasting live ahead of the game at City Tap House right near the arena.
Yeah, a few hundred yards away, 9th and I Street right there. Plenty of parking, easy to get to.
Super convenient for your boy who plans on going to both of those games.
Oh, that's for you.
But for all of you as well who have tickets to that game, 1 on Monday or 2 on Wednesday, if you're going to be there, you should come eat and drink and be merry and listen to the show and rock the red. And we'll be doing pep rallies for the Capitals from the City Tap House on Monday and Wednesday.
So when they play at home, that's where we're going to be. So as long as this goes, I hope that's hopefully the spot for several games.
Jacked up for that.
Yeah, man.
Also on Monday, I just saw this. This is apropos of nothing, but I do think that this is really cool. So I just wanted to tell my friend Danny Rouillet about this. I love when this happens. So apparently Chipotle struck a deal with the NHLPA where they are becoming a partner with the league and the Players Association.
Okay.
And here's why this is interesting.
NHLPA or NFLPA?
NHLPA, National Hockey League.
Okay.
The one that the Capitals play in.
Yeah, I know them.
The one we're talking about. That one. That little, the little stick in the puck thing.
Yeah, little stick in the puck.
On Monday, after 3 p.m. to kick off like the NHL playoffs.
Okay.
Chipotle's doing a bit where if you rock a jersey and you walk into a Chipotle, you get a BOGO. You get to buy one, get one on those burritos.
Oh.
That's pretty damn cool.
That ain't bad.
I've never done this before, but apparently they've done it for a couple of years now. I didn't know about it. I saw Russian Machine Never Breaks tweeting about this today. But a little buy one, get one on Monday after 3 o'clock. Throw that cap sweater on.
That's a pretty good idea.
Go get a burrito for yourself and the wife. Maybe those little trays that the kids can make their own. Or I don't know if your kids like burritos or what they do. Could be the play.
Here's a crazy idea.
Yeah.
How about you get 2 for yourself?
Burritos?
Yeah. You have one for then, and then you have one for
Oh,
later.
I thought you were doing a 2 burrito, one sitting situation.
I've done that, and that's among the fatter things I've ever done.
Eating 2 or just having one for later?
Well, I've done both moves, I'm proud to say, or not as proud to say, but I've done the 2 burrito thing. So the story as it goes is I went to Chipotle, had my burrito, and chips and hot salsa, and my Arnold Palmer. I leave Chipotle, get home, my buddies that I was rooming with come back and they go, hey, we're going to Chipotle. You want to go? Yep. Right back to that same Chipotle, double takes from everyone in line, like not in line, but like working behind the counter, like, weren't you here a minute ago, you fat zilch? And I had another burrito right then. That was probably the fattest thing I've ever done in my life. Shout out to my boy Quinn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you acknowledge to them that you had just been there?
Yeah, I told them. I just went to Chipotle, and like they're both looking at me like, and? I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go.
I didn't realize Chipotle's been around since 1993. That seems like a long time ago. Because I was thinking you must have been the first guy to ever go to Chipotle. Because if you're your roommates and your college age, but it's been around since the 90s.
I don't know how many there were in the 90s. That's news to me.
Seems aggressive.
This was very early 2000s. This is 23-year-old. I still think I have a metabolism.
But even
Randy
then,
Duyan.
I thought Chipotle was 10 years old. Apparently, it's been around way longer than that.
I mean, the OG that I know about on Wisconsin Avenue there, which wasn't too far from me, for a lot of years, saw a lot of me. I darkened that door many a time.
So the only time I've ever done anything remotely like that, what Darius is talking about, fattest move ever thing, I've never eaten 2 burritos in one sitting because, I put so much in my burrito. I put some chicken and some steak and some rice and a little bit of shredded cheese. Don't forget the cheese. Cheese is important.
You're right.
But I have gone to, do you guys remember Moe's Southwest Grill?
Welcome to Moe's.
I'm a Moe's guy.
Are you really?
I haven't been to Moe's in years and years and years. But when I first ever had my burrito, that started my burrito thing. So I was on the Redskins beat. I'd never eaten a burrito. I was probably like 22 years old. I had my first burrito via our friend Christian, who brought in tacos and burritos one day. And so I had that. And then all the guys that always went to Moe's all the time for lunch and would bring burritos back, I'd always said, no. So I started saying yes.
You started saying
yes.
Mo.
And I'd walk in. I think I could be making this up, but there was something called like the Home Wrecker or something like that they had on the menu that was bangarang.
There's the Mo meat, Mo cheese. There's that one. Oh, there's a Home Wrecker.
Yeah. So something like that. So I would go in. They'd scream, "Welcome to Moe's." I'd say, "Hey, thank you for having me.
Thanks
I'm
so
happy
much.
to be here." Then I'd walk up and I'd get my thing, and I would do the very basic like rice, chicken, cheese. But they had this really good orange like Chipotle sauce. Not
They did?
Chipotle. This is Moe's.
No, I know. Yeah.
So I would get that, and it was the best thing ever. But one time, I got that for lunch, and while I was in there, Darius, I got another one to eat a couple hours later for dinner. Exactly what you're talking about. Where it's like, I'm already thinking about dinner. I already know how much I'm going to like this. I will consume the one you're making for me now, but make another one to go so I can eat that as soon as I get hungry.
See, that was my play in Frostburg because there was no Chipotle in Frostburg. The closest one was maybe an hour and a half outside of Frostburg.
Home of the Bobcats.
Home of the Bobcats. So I would get 2 on the way up and have one when I got there and one the next day.
I have a question about Frostburg.
Sure, go for it.
I've only ever been there once for Redskins training camp. This was in I think maybe Marty shot. No, that was Carlisle. What year were they in Frostburg? Must have been in 99.
Yeah, it was right around late 90s for me.
The sign is still there. Home of Redskins training camp.
Is that right? So it was my first training camp ever, I bet, in 1999. Norville Eugene Turner's final season when he got the boys, the number 2 offense in the league. They made the playoffs. They win a game. They go to Tampa. I wonder with that town, is it a college town where like you can go out and do collegey things? I'd imagine the bars are just towny people, like the people from Frostburg. Is it a weird juxtaposition of like just Frostburg people and 21-year-olds?
I would say during the school year, it is mostly college people. But yeah, it's definitely a place where outside of the school year, I mean, kids are all gone. All the 20-somethings are gone, and it's just the locals and the townies.
Because that's kind of how it happens with JMU, too. Are you familiar with JMU?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the culture?
Harrisonburg, sure, yeah.
It's so fun. It's so great. I think it's an awesome school. It's beautiful, actually. I hope one of my kids goes there. It's like awesome. Football's great. I like driving down there. It's in state and cheap, which is the most important thing. But JMU is that way, where my wife's taking me to the places where she would go out when she was in college. And she's like, yeah, we'd go here and we'd go here. And I'm like, okay, I see a couple college kids sitting there, but the table next to them.
There's just like the 71-year-old.
It's so random. Yeah. It is the weirdest collision of lives of like 21-year-old girl at JMU getting her degree to be a teacher next to the 4 dudes that just live a mile away.
Next to like Red. Just a guy
named Red.
Yes,
yeah. There's it's definitely one of those old towns with a main street that has like an antique store and stuff like that. But there are several bars on that main street where people will walk, party out throughout the night and stuff. You'll definitely see a mix of a guy named Red and college people, but it majority college kids throughout the school year, and then off season there are no kids there at all.
I bet I would love Frostburg. I bet you I'd get so psyched.
You sleep on how far it is.
Well, I think it's like 2.5 hours.
It's like 250.
Well, it's one of those there's no good way to go places where it's like, oh, that doesn't look that far, but like you sleep when there's 100 miles where you have to go 45.
It's Pennsylvania, right?
No, it's still in Maryland.
It's in Maryland.
Is it Maryland?
Yeah.
Okay, I would have guessed
Pennsylvania.
It's right on the border.
Yeah, it's like Cumberland and Hagerstown is like 100 miles to the east.
Oh yeah, I don't go to Hagerstown unless Bryce Harper's playing. That's kind of my philosophy. On
That's a pretty good philosophy.
There's a silly outlet mall in Hagerstown. You sleep.
I will not be there anytime soon.
That outlet mall
is Bryce Harper playing there? That's the
He's
extent
not, no.
of my.
Is 18-year-old Bryce Harper playing that game?
The sun's on the field and Bryce is blowing kisses at people. That's when I'll be there. But what is my thing? If there's a small town with a little main strip with some shops, and it's a place where there's like 8 people at a time and a lot of open space, I love it.
You're about it.
Leesburg, Purcellville, Middleburg's like even further, so that's even better. If I had my druthers, I would just live there. That's what I would do.
You'd have been so psyched for Gianni's Pizza and Wings. Wednesday wing night.
Let's talk about how often I'd be there.
Oh man, you'd live there.
Would you see him on Wednesdays?
You'd see him on Wednesdays. You'd see him on Thursdays, Friday.
If I wasn't married with kids and I lived in Frostburg, would I ever not be there? That's the question. I'd walk in and they would already have the wings waiting for me.
Grant, they give you the full Norm treatment.
Exactly.
Just to go back to the Chipotle thing real quick. So first Chipotle was in Denver in the mid-90s or in 1993, as you mentioned. They didn't expand until it looks like 1998, where they got 16 different locations. It ballooned to up to 500 locations by 2005. So that's around our time.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
When Danny ate 2 burritos in one sitting. Speaking of Chipotle, McDonald's, while we're talking food here and fast food, I saw they're bringing back the snack wrap. What is the snack wrap? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
It was a big story online and everyone was excited. And I don't order the snack wrap and I've never eaten one, so I don't care. But why are people so excited?
Well, it's one of those. It's got that McRib vibe. It's not the same thing, obviously, but it's it's got this cult following.
Right,
and every once in a while they'll do it.
It's like a little taco or something, or a snack wrap.
Let me see. I'm trying to find a good picture for you. It's like that. It's like it's not a non. I don't know how to say this right. It's like, you think of like a burrito, or you think of like a soft taco type wrap. It's like that, but it has
like
very
torta?
very few Mexican ingredients. So it's like, it's like your chicken lettuce wrap kind of a deal, a snack wrap. It's like that.
Okay.
See that one?
We could do that pretty easily. It's a chicken wrap. It looks like chicken lettuce wrap. It's the thing that you've sworn off.
Right. So I will not eat a grilled chicken Caesar wrap or a chicken Caesar wrap ever
Can you
again.
get a burger in that, or is it got to be the chicken?
That I don't know.
All the pictures I'm seeing it's just a chicken.
Yeah,
wrap.
I've always thought of it as a chicken thing, but who knows if you
It looks like a soft taco. It looks like a burrito, basically, wrapped up chicken and lettuce. Okay. People seem excited. I'll just keep ordering a burger, I guess.
Yeah,
like good for you.
To me, this is, with all due respect to the McDonald's Corporation, they're doing just fine with or without my endorsement. I'd rather have the McChicken sandwich. Like if you're talking about the same ingredients as the McChicken sandwich,
Definitely.
Give me the sandwich.
You're on a bun, easier to eat in your car.
Yeah.
Or you're just eating what is effectively a little burrito. And if I'm wrapping up chicken and lettuce in a tortilla,
tortilla,
I'm probably just going to go to their cousin Chipotle. I'm going to McDonald's not for that. When I go to a steakhouse, do I get fish?
No.
I don't get fish.
No, you don't do that. No.
But maybe I'd go to Bonefish and get fish.
Yeah, I went to Bonefish the other
after
day.
a soccer game.
Post-soccer
when I'm
game.
wearing my sweatpants.
In Frederick. Underdressed. Everyone looked at me. Oh, it's ridiculous.
The Commanders did their Top Golf event. Drew some ire again. People really don't like this thing. They get heat for this. Apparently, Mike Florio took issue. Our guy from Pro Football Talk. He was saying that it's got the vibes of like them watching these players like it's some type of, and I'm paraphrasing, like a science experiment where they just get people to monitor them and they're having them have this hangout where they can take notes on them. Yeah, that's what's happening is they're determining who they want to give.
Wait till I tell you about the combine, Florio.
Right. You ever watch that? The literal poking and prodding and getting on scales. And I mean, yeah, that's what they're doing. They're monitoring the players. I think it's a strange thing. I would want all of my time with these players to be done one-on-one. I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time in group sessions because you only get so many of these interviews. You only get so much access to players. So if you get 30 interviews, to bring in 25 guys at one time is a giant waste for me. I would want to have them all in one at a time and have them meeting for hours and hours and hours with coaches, but they do some of that. We got some behind-the-scenes insight on what this whole thing was about last year. Remember when Drake May was on a ESPN show with Kevin Clark, and he was actually asked about it because Jaden Daniels didn't really like the Top Golf thing, if you remember. His agent came out and took issue with it and had a lot of negative things to say about how they handled it, and maybe they just didn't tell Jaden in advance that's what they were doing, so he was bothered by it. But it also was when we found out they were taking Jaden Daniels. They picked him up in like a limousine with like champagne, and Adam Peters and Dan Quinn got out of the car with Josh Harris, and like they did the Shmee bit where they stomped their feet and the red carpet came out from Dulles. And then Drake May had to, like, they gave him a bicycle.
They're like, submit your Uber receipt to us and you might get reimbursed.
JJ McCarthy had to take a scooter. I mean, it was like, I wonder who they're going to take. These guys, they're like, well, this has nothing to do with anything. We just picked up Jaden because we happen to be in the area. Meanwhile,
with a limo,
Drake May, they're like, Army crawl through 500 yards of fecal matter.
Now, there's a highway not too far from where you're standing. If you want to take your right thumb and point in the direction you're going, someone might pick you up.
This was Drake last year talking about enjoying the Top Golf experience.
It was one of the cool events I've been on. I think, always kind of different places you go and see, kind of a steak dinner spot. And, just you're surrounded with, the head coach and GM and quarterback coaches. And then kind of an approach of all of us being together and seeing how we interact and getting a chance to swing the golf club a little bit. I enjoyed it, be around the other guys. I got to meet a lot of different guys throughout the process and a lot of, guys I saw in high school recruiting. I remember Mary Schmidt. I tried to get him committed to Alabama when I was committed there in high school. In full circle. I know JJ well and seeing Jaden and those guys was, I think it was a really cool experience for me. I think we all got our separate time with coaches when we need to. It's not like we didn't do any of that. But Top Golf was just a way for us to get out and do something fun the evening before.
So that was Drake May discussing being part of this Top Golf event 1 year ago. I wouldn't do it. I think it's silly. But I'm also not up in arms about it, and I think that it's overblown that people like get bothered by it. Where are you at on it?
Yeah, so to me, there's two separate categories. If you go, I think your time is better served doing it a slightly different way,
which is
in terms of evaluation. I think that's very reasonable.
Do you agree with me? I get 30 meetings. I want every one of those players ideally on a different day, so that I get the most access and intel, and I can have them sit for as many minutes as possible, unimpeded, being themselves. Pouring their heart out to me.
Yeah, I would strategically do something where I might have a couple of guys that were rivals. Potentially, let's say for the sake of argument, I've got two defensive ends who happen to go against each other over the course of the season. I might invite them at the same time to see how they reacted or something like that. As long as it's thoughtful, I can get down with it. So I usually kind of separate things into a couple categories. If you have an intellectual or thoughtful objection or disagreement to something, we can have that conversation. And I do. I just wouldn't necessarily do it that way. They're smarter than me. They know what they're doing, and that's all fine. I find myself all the time arguing against some of these reactions, right? Like the idea that they're treating them like zoo animals or the people are so up in arms about it. I find that way more outrageous than I do the decision to have guys go to Top Golf. Like, again, it's not how I would use my time. And I think you can leave it at that, but there's the hyperbole around it as if this is like, it not only is it unorthodox, which it is, and it's out of the ordinary, but it's thoughtfully done. There's reasons behind them doing it. Does that make sense?
I don't doubt that it's thoughtfully done. My only annoyance would be when I'm told they still have the meetings. Like they're still going to get one-on-one time. Are you going to get as much? you can't tell me, and if my understanding on how this is done is correct, and I guess we should start with, I don't know that it is 100% correct, but you get 30 of these visits, right? The Top Golf group was over 20 players. That means that this is 20 of the 30 sit downs at your facility that you got were used for this event. Now, it's a multi-day thing. So yes, those guys are still going through. But if you have 20 there that you're running through in one day, the next day or whatever, theoretically, if I did it over 30 days, I'm going to have more time and just a more thorough analysis with each player. They did a great job finding their quarterback. It appears Jaden Daniels was the right guy. I don't think the Top Golf event is why they got it right, though. So this idea, like, well, look at how they did in the draft last year. They did okay. I mean, Mikey Sanders still was a hit. Jaden Daniels was a home run. Their tight end that they drafted in the second round barely played. Their wide receiver that they drafted in the third round didn't help them much other than as a kick returner in the second half of the season. Like, it's not like they batted 1,000. I'm a big fan of the group. I'm screaming about Adam Peters being handsome and awesome for the last couple of years. He'll continue to be both of those things. But like the notion that they had such an amazing draft that we should never question anything. No, you get an allotted amount of time. Everybody does. You want to use it as good as possible. And I think it's an interesting enough conversation. If you have 30 dudes hanging out together, is that the best way to do it?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable disagreement. Again, I always find myself objecting a lot of times to the reaction. Does that make sense? Like,
sure.
So that's my second column, and that I guess would go
like
to
the Florio
and company or whatever.
Is not a good take in my opinion. If I'm prescribing this to him, but if his point is this feels icky, this gives me the ick that they have these players all walking around and they're sitting in some room looking through the glass at them, monitoring how they interact with each other.
Feel like they're in laboratory coats, like watching,
like, watching how like lab rats interact in a bucket or something. Whatever the comp is that is uncomfortable and weird. No, that's not. It's just dudes playing golf, man. And are they monitoring how they are as leaders and who's the alpha and who ends up, cutting up and having fun and getting comfortable fastest and thrives in the moment? Maybe. I'm sure they're taking mental or physical notes, whatever. Like the whole process is that. Everything that they do from 6 months ago as scouts is that.
Yeah, they're trying to decide if they want to give millions of dollars to somebody or not. You're going to have as thorough a process as possible. That's what brings me back again to the initial thing. I probably wouldn't do this. I might do it for a smaller group, or again, as long as I had a reasonable process. Now this just sort of seems like you want to be the cool guys, want to be the fun guys that everyone remembers their visit. So maybe you're paying it forward so that when it's free agency time or something down the road, there's the Top Golf guys.
Well, it's like when you get your itinerary at summer camp, and that the one counselor who does the ropes course or whatever is the most fun. So you're like, oh, Wednesday at 2, we got ropes with Darius. That's going to be awesome. It's like, oh, next Tuesday, I'm at the Commanders. Bet you all my buddies from the SEC will be there too. It'll be a big sleepover hangout at the, Royalton Inn in Ashburn. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, yeah, I think people probably look forward to it. And it is a little bit of that. Like you're flexing you're the cool team, the fun team. But they're also the cool team now because they're good.
Well, that's the better part.
Which is more important.
Yeah. And their quarterback's awesome.
Tomorrow on this radio program, starting at 2 through the 5 o'clock hour, we are giving away Caps tickets. We've got 4 hours worth of pairs of Caps tickets to give away on the show tomorrow. We're going to be doing it on the station all day long, starting at 8 a.m. So make sure you are listening. Speaking of the Caps, it's time for a power play. All right, so 3 notes on this game tonight for me that I care about. Number 1, Dylan Strome's got 29 goals. If he scores 1 more, he gets to 30, which is a nice round number in the NHL. It's a big deal, and he'd be the 4th guy to do it this season for the Capitals. I would like to see that happen. Number 2, I need no one to get hurt, and that is the key priority here. Last game of the regular season, there's never been a more meaningless hockey game. You play a playoff game at home on Monday night. I need everyone out of this thing fully healthy. However you got to get there, Spencer Carberry, do what you can, please. And number 3, Clay Stevenson's making his NHL debut. Big moment for the kid. This is a goaltender from Hershey, who is kind of the number 2 in Hershey behind Hunter Shepard, who got called up and played a terrible game the other night. They said thanks but no thanks and sent him back down, and now Clay Stevenson is up, and he is going to play as Charlie Lindgren will be the backup tonight in this finale against the Penguins.
I like the things that you covered. The thing I would add is I still hate the Penguins, and I hate every positive thing that they do or happens to them, and I hate it when their fans are even slightly pleased. So it would mean a lot to me personally, even though this game is meaningless and it's about the health and safety and yada, yada, yada. I still hate the Penguins, so beating them would make me happy.
Coming up next, you will hear our interview with Jacob Chikrin, defenseman from the Capitals, ahead of pregame and eventually puck drop of Caps hockey. 2 o'clock tomorrow, we are live. We're giving away Caps tickets ahead of Game 1 all day long on the Fan. Game 1 is on Monday. How about next week? Hockey on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The NFL draft on Thursday. Orioles at the Nats Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's a juicy sports
It's
week.
not too shabby, right? Yeah, every sport's pretty much checked off, right? Anything you can do, someone's doing something, except for the Wizards. But whatever.
They might get Cooper Flag. You don't know.
But the lottery's not till May.
No, but they could still. They might get him.
I suppose they could.
They did what they were supposed to do.
They did everything right so far.
They knew the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
For Darius and Toby, Grant and Danny saying so long. Thanks for listening to The Fan.
Thank you for coming.